teaching. I think there is the personal side, which is perhaps more important. My welcome to you and the opening remarks is which I am doing. Soon after this, Professor Sudhakar Naik will do the first session on harmony, which basically will look at why it is important for us to be in harmony with ourselves first, and the rest of the things outside. So that is the session. Most of us lecture, and we do it routinely, almost as a ritual. Let us closely and critically examine the role of a lecture in higher education. That will be followed by a very brief session on the inverted funnel, the use of visual aids. What is the role of visual aids? And how often we abuse it and misuse it. So we look at that. We break for lunch, and then we come back in the afternoon, and the session is titled Breaking the Monotony. Anything that you do repetitively can become monotonous. It was Albert Einstein who said, if you do the same thing over and over again and expect different results, that is insanity. And that is what we do very often as teachers. Do the same thing over and over again in the same way and expect different results and say nothing is happening. That's what Albert Einstein said, is insanity. To some extent, we are all insane that way. So, we as teachers must consciously and deliberately break that monotony. We all want variety in life, but when it comes to teaching, we do the same thing, same way from the time of Tipu Sultan. Somehow we don't want to change. So, we are going to look at that very closely, what it is to break the monotony, what we can do to make that possible. And then we will have the last session for this evening, titled Communication 1. The purpose of communication is to bring about change in the people around you, maybe your students, maybe your colleagues. But can you communicate without causing pain, without causing hurt, without humiliating someone? Is it possible to communicate? You may say, oh, that's not possible. Let's examine. So that's what we are going to look at in that session. That is coming in another part, communication 2, that will come later. But for today, this is what we have ahead, and I'll go through the rest of it tomorrow, the other sessions. So this is what we have. So we hope to end the session latest by 4:45 today. But rest assured, if you feel like getting up and stretching, if you feel like improving your circulation, please do so. The most important thing is look at these 3 days as a relaxed 3 days away from your work, away from all the pressures of work. So it's very easy for me to say, you keep all those things aside. I know things will be on your mind, several things you might be preoccupied with. But if it is possible, kindly set aside all that, just as you leave slippers outside in a temple. Is it possible for you to leave everything, all your worries outside, and then be with us? And this is the one request we have. And I now request Professor Sudhakar Naik to start off the first session, Harmony. Over to you. We will have a formal introduction at some other time, and we'll come to know each of you. But let us start off with the first session.
Good to see you. Nice to see you. Wonderful to see you. Such a delight to see you. It is so remarkable to see you. It's such a delight to see you. It's so wonderful to see you. It is such a joy to see you. We are so happy to see you. It is almost magical to see you. It's so beautiful to see you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming. Your grace, your beauty, your charm, your passion, your spirit, your joy, most remarkable. Truly remarkable. Outstanding. The way you have come. 40 teachers, 40 Buddhas. I have no words to express what I feel, the way I feel, the vibrations, the energy, the passion. We have been deeply touched. And we look at you, when we try to come close to you, when we sit with you, when we try to understand you, most remarkable, most remarkable. And this day is so remarkable. This day, I don't know whether I have seen this day in deep silence, very closely. This day is so beautiful. A new day, remarkably new day. And this day is so beautiful. This place is so beautiful. This campus is so beautiful. The skies are so beautiful. This earth is so beautiful. The plants are so beautiful. The rivers are so beautiful. The hills are so beautiful. The flowers are so beautiful. This life is so beautiful. But I must really say, you are most beautiful. बड़े अच्छे लगते हैं ये धरती ये नदियाँ है रहना और तुम हम तुम कितने पास हैं कितने दूर है चाँद सितारे हम तुम कितने पास है कितने दूर है चाँद सितारे सच पूछो तो मन को झूठे लगते हैं ये सारे हम तुम कितने पास है कितने दूर है चाँद सितारे सच पूछो तो मन को झूठे लगते हैं ये सारे मगर सच्चे लगते हैं ये धरती ये नदियाँ है रहना और तुम Thank you so much. I really don't know whether you are able to really come very close to a person, but not be physically. Is it possible that you can come so close, so that I can see you? Do you see people? In deep silence, in deep peace, in deep joy, do you really look at people? My father, my mother, my sisters, my brother, my wife, my son, my daughter, my student, do you look at them? Their faces, they're remarkably beautiful. Eyes, the way they sit, the way they move, their problems, their difficulties, their conflicts. Do you feel do you really feel? Intensely, deeply, do you really feel for the other? It can be anybody, maybe even a stranger. Do you have the sensitivity? Do you have the understanding? Do you have the strength? Do you have the courage to go very close to a person, to sit with him, to look at him, to trust him, to listen to him, to interact with him, and if possible, to love him? Most essential. The real learning, the real teaching only happens when I come very close to you. You are my student, I have been your teacher. The most remarkable relationship. All beautiful things, all excellent things happen in this beautiful interaction. Father and son, husband and wife, mother and daughter, teacher and student. Most remarkable relationships. All wonderful things. In fact, life happens in those beautiful moments when you sit with a person. Are you following? Not easy. Not easy to come close. You want to come close, but you find it so difficult to come close. There are blocks, there are differences, there are distances, there is mistrust, there is suspicion, there is doubt. Am I right? You want to come close, but you hesitate to come close. Please come close. Absolutely no fear. Fear is the problem. And when we live with fear, that's not a way to live. One fear is enough to distort, to destroy all beautiful things in this life. And we live with fears. Please understand, my student, he has so many fears. Am I right? Fear, you have to very clearly understand. And education is my ability, your ability to live in this world without single fear, which is most essential. Please sit back, please rest, please relax. The fear must go. As long as we live with fear about each other, communication, teaching, learning is not possible. We are living so much of fear. Even in my home, there can be fear. Am I right? And when you have fear, you cannot come close. बहुत मुश्किल है, बहुत ही मुश्किल है. Are you following? So these things are extremely essential. Good people, remarkably good people, extremely good people. But goodness is just not enough. Are you following? Your teachers, remarkable teachers. I very clearly see each one of you are remarkable teachers. What madam, what you teach? Chemistry, oh my God, what a remarkable subject. Excellent subject. Chemistry, you see, it's a beautiful word, you see. A beautiful chemistry between people. Am I right? The color, the joy, the spice of life is chemistry. Am I correct? A chemical reaction which can bring people together. Am I correct? आप क्या सिखाते हैं?
Psychology.
ये तो होता है बेनी. Fear, anger, hurt, pain, anxiety, tension. Thank you so much. Most essential. Education psychology is most essential. To understand psychology of students is most essential. आप क्या सिखाते हैं? Oh my God, so nice. आप कहाँ से आए हैं? किस कहाँ से आए हैं आप? So good. अरे यार. आप क्या सिखाते हैं? बेटे आप. Design. Oh, that's why I can make also. This is real way to live design. He not only teaching, he is living design. Remarkable way. Excellent. आप क्या सिखाते हैं? होटल मैनेजमेंट. आप क्या सिखाते हैं? Excellent. Very good. अन्नदाता सुखी भव. We teach, am I right? All of us. Every single subject is important. So vast, so enormous, Am I right? Every single subject we teach. Am I right? Not only day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year we teach. Am I right? Whole lifetime we teach. Am I right? I don't doubt your intensity, I don't doubt your integrity, I don't doubt your passion, I don't doubt your knowledge. I very clearly see all of you, every one of you are committed, are dedicated. You want to teach and you teach. Am I right? Every single effort you make to teach. Am I right? Every single day you teach. Am I right? In the lecture, in the classrooms, in the projects, in the labs, everywhere you teach. Am I right? You teach. Am I right? You teach. Am I right? Yes. You teach. Am I right? Yes. But do they learn? Do they really learn the way you want them to learn? Clearly, beautifully, joyfully, deeply, the way you expect them to learn. So much of effort, so much of energy goes into this one process called learning. But do they learn? Do they really learn the way you want them to learn? Cross your heart and ask yourself. Do they really learn the way you want them to learn? So much of effort, so much of energy, so much of passion. Do they really learn? Especially when you look at their answer scripts. Don't you feel frustrated? Don't you feel terrible? Don't you go mad? You start wondering what's wrong with this, what you have taught and what they have written is. See, I'm not saying always, but many times you started doubting yourself. Something must be terribly wrong with me. I'm right. Yeah. Then what do? You start attending this kind of workshops. Am I right? Rest assured, absolutely nothing is wrong with you. Nothing is wrong with you. You are teaching, you are able to teach. You know everything about teaching. But the problem is, they are not learning. That's why if you are really sensitive, you see this very clearly. You see very clearly, you are struggling, you make more struggle. But whatever you struggle you make, they are not. And something happens to you, you feel terrible. ये क्या हो रहा है? ये कैसे हो रहा है? ये क्यों हो रहा है? ये बंदे क्यों नहीं सीख रहे हैं? Am I right? Please, problem is not with teaching. Problem is with the learning. This you must very clearly see. This workshop is not about teaching. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
This workshop is how to make them learn. That is the issue. Because we are always concentrating on how to teach, how to improve my teaching, how to become more effective teacher. You are already an effective teacher. This you must very clearly see. Don't make any effort to improve yourself. Impossible. But what the effort is? When we teach, they must learn. Please understand. You Sudhakar, you stupid Sudhakar. 40 years have been teaching. 40 years have been teaching and nobody has. You are saying this to me. Look at this madam. Look at this madam. She is saying, Sudhakar, you have been teaching for 40 years but nobody has. आज हमें मार दिया, एक ही बार में खत्म कर दिया. Alright? She's telling me that nobody has. आप ये कहाँ से लाई थी? I understand. But you see, please very clearly see, what she says is the ultimate truth, which I am able to. 40 years of my life, important years, critical years, crucial years, they are gone. If you are a teacher and your students have not learned, that means your life has gone. Alright? My life as a teacher has gone waste. You are right. There's only one wish. You are so young. My life has gone waste, but at least your life should not go waste. If you don't like teaching, please leave and go. Please leave and go. Don't feel bad. Don't feel sad. Whatever your heart tells you, please leave and go. I know. Because of some majburi you might have come and join as a teacher. But please leave and go as early as possible. Don't destroy your life. Don't destroy the life of students. Please go. Very simple thing. What you must enjoy, you must do. If you don't enjoy teaching, if you don't enjoy learning, please go. Otherwise, you will destroy yourself. Not only you will destroy yourself, you will destroy your students. You will destroy everything. Because you are not comfortable. I follow you. This is most essential. If you really teach, if you expect that life, anything is okay, man. Anything is okay, anything is okay. But life should not go waste. Okay? That means what? 3 days, very important days, very crucial days. You understand? You have come. Thank you so much for coming. From your department, from your workstations, away from your work, from your students, you have come for 3 days. Important days. These 3 days should not go waste, right? Alright. That means what? These 3 days should not go waste means what? That must some learning happen in this workshop. Am I right? Am I right? Am I right?
Yes. Yes.
Otherwise, आप आए, आप बैठे, आप गए. Am I right? That's exactly what happens. Days, every beautiful day is simply waste. Nothing is happening. Nothing is happening. That should not happen. Learning must. Am I clear?
Yes.
Nothing else matters. Only one thing matters in life is I must. My son, my student, my daughter, each one of us must learn. I'm not joking. The most remarkable process, most powerful process in this life is to learn. Not essential. You may teach, but what's essential is you make them learn how to learn. If you give them one skill, if you make them one skill, how to learn from this life, I can assure you, I can promise you, you make them so effective. Shall you? Now what is learning? Teaching is okay. But what's learning? Most beautiful process, most powerful process, most remarkable process. Nothing else matters, only learning matters. But what is learning? Learning is what? What actually happens when the student is learning?
Which gives you certain value to you.
Which gives you certain
Value.
That's the effect of learning. Alright? But first they must learn. If they learn something, that will create remarkable values. But learning is most essential, most basic.
So you study something and apply it.
Application is only possible when they learn something. But what is this learning?
To understand.
Thinking is only possible when they learn something. But what's learning?
Needs changes to learn.
Change is excellent. Change is only possible when they learn something. But what's learning? Change is only possible when they learn something.
Makes the
Process to learn something.
Process to
Learn something.
process to learn is wonderful. But what is learning? What is this process? That's what I'm asking you.
Knowing the facts, understanding the facts.
Understanding is only possible when they learn something. Understanding the effect of learning. But what is learning?
One who has perceived the concept being imparted to the
Concept, perception, understanding is only possible when they learn something. But what is learning?
Feeling. Process.
Huh?
It's a process.
It's a process. But what is the process?
To get something in terms of knowledge.
Knowledge is only possible when they learn something. But what is learning?
connection between faculties.
Connection is only possible when they learn something. But what is
Some
learning?
feeling.
Feeling is only possible when they learn something. But what is learning?
Being comfortable with that.
Comfort is only possible when they learn. But what is learning? What is it? I'm just trying to, What is that is perfect. But they are all effect of learning. But what is learning? You are correct.
The learning is just a word.
But what's learning?
So it's understanding life.
I understand. I'm not against it.
It's a lifelong process.
I understand. But what is this process? What actually happens when I'm learning?
Joy.
Product of learning. If I really learn well, it must create joy. It must create understanding. It must create change. It must gain knowledge.
Taking some new information.
Yeah, let's go up there. But what is this information? How I am not taking it?
whatever input we give, they should follow that.
That's only possible when I learned. But first I must learn. But wait,
Enabling capability.
applicable?
Enabling capability.
Yeah, that's true. But it's a product of your learning. Result of learning. Power of learning. But what is learning? Be very practical. Because this workshop is all about practical things. Simple things, useful things, applicable things.
Registering something in head.
Oh my God. Exactly my mistake. I got his heart, man. I get
So learning is input.
input, output. What is learning? Be very practical. What happens when I am learning? What actually happens when I am learning? Try to put it in different way. What is teaching? When you try to teach, basically what is that we are doing? Be very practical.
Try to convey the
Be very practical, be very simple, be very down to earth. Understand the essence of teaching. Essence of teaching. What do you do when you are teaching?
imparting knowledge.
When you communicate, what is that trying to achieve? Yes, you are communicating, I am communicating, but in that communication, what is that trying to achieve? What do you actually want to do when you are communicating?
We explain something to
Why you explain?
understand that.
Why you are explaining? When you are explaining means what are you actually trying to achieve?
So that make them so that they can learn.
Be very practical. What is that you try to achieve when you explain, when you demonstrate, when you tell, when you show, when you communicate? Transferring knowledge is what you are doing. I have so many things, and I know so many things. I have so many things, and I want to. Be very practical. Be very simple. I want to. अरे ले लो यार. I want to give. I want to
Give.
generously, happily, joyfully. Whatever I have, I want to
Give.
because we are good people. Whatever I have, I wish to give to my son, my daughter, my wife. I don't know about wife. I want to
Give.
उधार, open, totally open. अरे ले लो यार, जो भी मेरा है वो तेरा है. I want to give. I want to share. I want to give. I want to share. I want to give. And we are giving, right? Every single day you are giving. But the problem is not they are not receiving. They are not receiving. They are not taking. So learning is a very simple process that they are able to
Take something.
receive, they are able to take. Be very simple. Teaching is like you want to give. Learning is they want to receive. But the problem is they are not able to. Problem is not in giving. You are giving. But they are not able to. In fact, you have so much of giving. But very clearly see what you are giving is simply going waste. Nothing is received. Nothing goes inside. Nothing goes into the mind. Everything is spilling over, right? It's not waste. So much of waste you very clearly see. And sometimes you feel so helpless, right? ये बंदे क्यों नहीं सीख रहे हैं? Why they are not receiving? I'm giving. Clear? Why they are not able to receive? So this whole workshop is how to make them receive. We must teach in such a way they are able to receive. You must be able to give in such a way they are able to receive. Give. Never ever stop giving. But when you give, every single drop must be whatever you teach, every sentence, every word, every concept, every idea. What a joy you see. Ultimate joy for a teacher is very, very clearly see that receiving every single thing. What you speak, what you don't speak, even your silence they are receiving. I tell you, is this possible? That means you must very clearly understand this process of receiving. Who is receiving? First ask me, why they are not able to receive? They want to receive, don't say they are not interested. Why? They want to learn. They want to receive, but they are not able to receive. Why they are not able to receive?
Lack of understanding.
Many units.
Yeah, there can be several things. But basically, who is receiving? And you expect that student, my son, my daughter, they must receive. आपने इतना अच्छा खाना बनाया है. Don't you expect them to eat? Right?
They must have faith.
They must be able to eat. That means they must be hungry. They must be thirsty. Who is receiving? Who is receiving? What do you speak? Who is receiving? Who is receiving? Please, very important question. Who is receiving?
Neurons.
Who is receiving? Be very specific, be very
Neurons,
practical.
neurons.
Who is receiving?
Neurons, brain.
Can you be more specific?
Yes.
Who is receiving?
Senses.
Senses.
Senses are the doors to perceive something. I'm already group. Shabda, Rasa, Gandha, Sparsha. 5 things. Alright. Sensations are very essential, and I hope, I believe, I trust the senses are sensitive. The senses must be sensitive, so that they can receive. But more than important, when you receive, what happens? Who is actually receiving? What you speak, what you tell, what you explain, who is receiving? Our mind is receiving. A beautiful instrument, remarkable instrument. The mind is receiving. The problem is, mind is not able to receive. Why the mind is not able to receive? Madam, take it. The mind must receive, alright? The ultimate instrument of learning is, and the mind must receive. The senses perceive. Whatever the senses perceive are transferred to the mind, alright? And the mind must be able to receive. Whatever you speak, the mind must be able to receive. The mind is not able to receive. You see that very clearly on the right. In the entire class, you look at them. Physically they are there, but they are not able to. Face is blank, eyes are blank. They simply stare at you. Whatever you speak, absolutely no response, because they are not receiving. You struggle very much. You very clearly see they are not receiving, they are not perceiving. Am I? Because the face is very clearly telling. Blank stares, but it's not doing anything. Because the physically they are present. But mind is
Absent.
that's a basic problem. Physically, all of us may be here, but are you really here? Are you really here? Are you really here? That's a problem. Many times, physically you may be here, but
Mentally.
that beautiful instrument may not be here. It has gone to Delhi, it has gone somewhere else, it has gone home, it's wandering, am I right? And I'm not able to. So mind is able to receive. Are you following me? This is a real challenge. You may ask me how I can make my students' mind to receive. It is their mind. But this is a real challenge. As a teacher, you must be able to their mind to receive. When do you think the mind is in a beautiful state to receive? Mind must receive. So please, this is very important, very essential. Because otherwise you will miserably fail to make them. Somehow you have this impossible, very difficult challenge, but this is a real challenge. Otherwise you will simply teach, they will never learn. So how do I make my mind receive? You are speaking something very important, and I must receive. That means, when the mind will be able to receive. Peace. Beautiful thing. Who said that? Oh my God. When the mind is tranquil, when the mind is peaceful, that means what? When I am able to receive. For example, my wife has prepared a beautiful cup of tea in the morning. Excellent cup of tea. And she wants to give that cup of tea to me. Am I right? She has prepared the tea, and I must be able to receive the tea. My cup is ready. I'm just waiting to receive. If I receive the tea which is prepared by my wife, the cup must be empty. Right? Cup must be
Empty.
when the cup is empty, then only I can receive. That means what?
Curiosity.
That means the mind must be free to receive. That means what? When the mind is occupied, when the mind has no space, it cannot receive.
Receive.
This is most essential. You can only learn, you can only live, you can only laugh when the mind must have space. The mind must have space. Unfortunately, my mind, your mind, my student mind is occupied. Don't ask it's occupied with what? You know it very well. It can occupy with so many things, so many problems, so many difficulties, so many conflicts. His their problems, their family problems, parental problems, sex problem, alcohol problem, drug problem, pleasure problem, party problem, fear problem. There can be so many problems, and the mind is occupied with those kind of problems. Mind has no space, and when mind has no space, it cannot learn. This is the challenge. And this is a challenge for all of us. You can really learn, you can really relax, you can really rest, you can really celebrate when you have space. We are distracted, we are disturbed, we are restless, we are frustrated, we are anxious, we are tense. We have so many worries that indicates the mind has no space. This you must very clearly see. And when you are tense, you are anxious, you cannot. Shall we go ahead? Are you following me?
Yes.
Are you following me? Yes. This whole workshop, we have to look at this very important question. How I create a beautiful space in myself so that I really live. I really learn. I really laugh. I rest. I relax. I enjoy. Are you following me? That requires space. If I create, you ask him, if I create some beautiful thing, creative thing, you have to have space. Alright? In that beautiful moment, something original, creative, remarkable thing happens because mind has space. When the mind has no space, you feel terrible, right? Creativity is only possible when the mind is free. Are you following me? So this workshop, we have to look at this very carefully. How I create space. First of all, you must create the space in yourself. Am I right? Am I right? That's most essential. Most essential. This whole process of learning has four components. Four components, very important concept. What are the four things which are most essential if learning has to happen? How to create a space will discuss, but apart from that space, the space is created by four things. Learning is possible when you understand the connections, the link, the concept of four things. What are the four most essential basic things if learning has to happen? Very essential concept, most important concept. Let us get a simple thing. How do you decide what you are supposed to teach?
It has to have an application. Direct application to the student.
That you understand, but my question is very simple. Every subject is so vast, correct?
Yes.
Chemistry, psychology, design, food, mathematics, chemical engineering, electronics, every single subject is so vast, right? And when you meet a class, how you decide from that enormous, vast subject, how you decide in that 1 hour what you are supposed to teach? How you select, how you make the choice, how you decide what you are supposed to teach?
Sir, interest or expertise in the
So what is the choice? On what your choice is made? How do you make that choice? How do you decide? What makes you decide? What makes you to choose? In this class, I am going to touch on these topics, these concepts, these ideas. How do you decide? How do you choose?
So level of receiver.
There must be a course plan. Be very practical because we are governed by certain regulatory authorities. Am I right? Your council, your university, your board, everything very clearly tells you that you must teach on these. Am I right?
Yes.
What is that thing? It's madam already said that. Maybe lesson plan, maybe syllabus, maybe curriculum. Am I right? All of us have to depend on a curriculum. My suggestion was, of course, we have a lot of freedom. I mean, to modify, to change, to alter, but I can't totally go away from the curriculum. The structure has to be there. I mean, of course, you can be creative, but still you have to follow certain structure. You can't be totally go away from the curriculum. Am I correct?
Yes.
Curriculum is good, but what is this curriculum? So first dimension, the first important principle is curriculum. Now what is curriculum? इसका एसेंस क्या है, इसका फ्रैग्रेंस क्या है, इसका मीनिंग क्या है, इसका सिग्निफिकेंस क्या है? Beautiful word, but you must understand the essence. We often use this word so much. What is curriculum? Be very specific, be very practical. What is curriculum?
Sir, it is a set
Whose
of
need? Yeah, correct. Whose need? Okay, that's ultimate. But right now, in the beginning, it is whose need? What do you need? Learner's need. Of course, it's our need also. But what's more important, my need or their need? what? What is this need? Need means what? You use a wonderful word, need. I need food, I need space, I need companionship, I need so many things. When you're learning or when you're teaching, what is need? Are you following? What is need? When I go through a program or a course, what is my need?
The job.
Branch update.
Which I don't have, excellent. But what is the need? Why I want those things?
The job.
So that I
Be very practical. I want to work, I want to live, I want to earn. That is what? What is this need? What I am supposed to achieve? 4 years, 5 years, 6 years to spend with me, come to my class, come to my university, pay so much of money, and I expect that my needs must be fulfilled. Right? The degree, qualification. But what is the ultimate need?
Money.
That's okay, that's fine. It's important. It's a basic need. But apart from that, what is this need means what? I am supposed to learn, alright? What am I supposed to learn? Be very practical. What I am supposed to learn so that I can make a living, I can earn money, I can live with dignity. That means what I am supposed to achieve, what I am supposed to learn. That means what I am supposed to attain my goals. Am I right? At the end of the course, I must be able to attain those goals. That's my need. That's your need, am I right? That means what is it? I must be able to attain those objectives. I've heard this word, objectives. Objective of this workshop is to make us more effective. I must tell you that very clearly. At the end of these 3 days, you must be able to make myself more effective. I must tell you that very clearly. So curriculum is nothing but a set of specific learning objectives, not teaching objectives. They are learning objectives. My student, your student must very clearly understand what they are supposed to learn. Do you tell them? At the beginning of any teaching learning activity, do you tell them very clearly, my dear son, at the end of this activity, you are supposed to learn, you are supposed to fulfill these needs. You are supposed to attain these objectives. That you must tell them very clearly. They are mature, they are adult, they want to learn, they want to attain, they want to become professional, they want to earn. But for that, you must tell them very clearly, these are the objectives of this activity. It is not essential that you must try to teach everything, not possible, right? But what's more important is you must tell them very clearly, please learn these objectives. They will learn. And you also tell them, I'm not going to touch on every objective, but as the adult, mature student, you are supposed to learn all these objectives. And that is curriculum. That means telling them very clearly, specific learning objectives. Please tell them. We never tell them. Please tell them very clearly. Specific learning. So they must know what they are supposed to learn. Are you following me? They must know what they are supposed to learn. Tell them. Repeatedly must tell them. What next? Now you have defined, you have very clear objectives. You are very clear, the students also very clear. What you can do. If learning has to happen, what next steps? Logical steps. Based on the objectives, what is that to do? What do you do? What is next step? Logical steps.
Motivate them.
How do you motivate them?
You just tell them that if you learn, then you will get this kind of.
Excellent. You are very kind, you are very compassionate, but how do you communicate this? What do you do this?
Teaching.
You have to teach. You have to help them to attain those objectives. That is, you have to use several methods, creative methods, unique methods, excellent methods, so that they are able to attain the objectives. So learning methods. Several. They are not teaching methods, they are learning methods. What's important here? The most essential thing is your ability to align. Align what? Align what? Or select the most appropriate, most powerful learning method so that they are able to achieve the objective. This is most essential. If I expect that my son must learn swimming, मेरा राजा बेटा, he must learn how to swim. I tell him, beta, you go to the library, there's a beautiful book, remarkable book, written by a noble, excellent swimmer. Olympic swimmer, he has written a beautiful book, Beta Ja, and study the how to what remarkable compassionate father. Will he learn?
No.
Somehow. Oh my God. The reading of it. Oh my God. मेरे को व्यवसाय है कैसे? Maybe some knowledge may take. But if he has really faith, what are you supposed to do? Throw him to the water. Throw him to the water. Have no mercy. Cold morning, you throw him. He will beat, he will struggle, but he will learn. Of course, this may be a very silly, stupid story, but please remember, look at yourself. Several things which you want to learn, we use stupid methods, totally wrong methods, and you expect that they must learn. Stupid, just superficial. Am I right? This mistake we often make. That means you must have wisdom in telling us to select that learning method which will achieve that objective. This workshop is going to look at several learning methods. Ultimately, whatever method you use, they must. Well, you're learning so well, man. My God, this is remarkable. What next? So you have told them very clearly what they're supposed to learn. You are trying your best to give you this most learning method. In fact, you can create your own methods. Am I right? What next? What is third? Actually, four things I told you. First is curriculum. Second is learning methods. What next? What to do next?
Test.
Exam. Very good.
Assessment.
What is most essential is my ability to understand how much you have
Learn.
It is most essential. Very difficult, not easy, especially in big class. It's not that simple to understand how every single student must, how much they have learned. But how do you find out indirectly how they have learned, what they have not learned, especially what they have not learned? Am I right? How do you find out whether they learned or not, they have not learned? What is the most basic, essential tool which you can use to understand how much they have learned? Questioning, that means? Communication in the sense, assessment. Assessment of the learning. Third thing very important. Of course, we have assessments. We have so many examinations. Am I right? But what do you think is the most basic function of assessment? When you assess a student, of course, it is essential for giving degree, qualification. That's essential. University examination is important. But apart from that, what is the spirit of assessment? Real spirit of assessment.
So what is, whether the set of objectives are
They have achieved. Excellent. Achieved. But apart from that, what is the basic function of assessment? When you very clearly see, he is not learning. ये बंदा सीख नहीं रहा, आता है, बैठता है, क्लास में सो जाता है. That means what? You very clearly see that he is not learning, he is not receiving it. So what are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to do? When you very clearly see, of course many times you don't see, but when you see, whenever you are able to see that somebody is not learning, what are you supposed to do?
I have to find out the gaps.
First of all, be very simple. What is supposed to do? I very clearly see you are not learning. I am not blaming you. That means having problems. I am not against you, but you are not learning.
My mind is preoccupied.
That's okay. I can't do anything about that right now. But what I am supposed to do? When I very clearly see you are not learning. Be very simple.
Change the teaching tool to particular.
Be very practical. What you will do?
talk to
Talk to him.
You just tell her. आपका नाम क्या है?
नीतू.
नीतू जी. आप नीतू सिंह हैं? No, आप नीतू हैं. नीतू जी, आप बच्चे हैं. आप सीख नहीं रहे हैं. Nice way. You must tell her you're not. You're not. Please. Please. सीखिए. No, not you. No, you student. In a kind way, gentle way, you please tell her or him that you are not.
Learning.
Not in harsh way, not in hard way. Please. You are so young. It's a very important process. I only pray that you must learn. Please. आप सीख रहे हैं, सब सीख रहे हैं, ये बंदे भी सीख रहे हैं, ये बंदे भी सीख रहे हैं, ये भी सीख रहे हैं, आप सीख नहीं रहे हैं. That means the most basic function of the assessment is to give feedback. You have to give the feedback. If we never do, you have to give the feedback. From the day one, you must tell them that you are not learning. बेटा सीख ले तू नहीं सीखेगा तू फेल हो जाएगा, तू फेल हो जाएगा. You know what happens now when they fail? Do you know what they say? इस दाढ़ी वाले ने अब लगता है इसने मुझे फेल कर दिया, इसने मुझे फेल कर दिया. Am I right? The system has failed me. This institution has failed me. Even the parents say the same thing. Am I right? They never say, my son failed because he never studied, he never learned. They always blame the teachers. Am I right? The teacher failed. That should never happen. That's only possible when you give the feedback. मैंने बोला था he's understanding. He's so happy now. At least they will not say openly, but at least they will understand that this teacher was telling me that I'm not learning. At least they will say I failed because I never. They never say that. That's only possible when you give them
Feedback.
not in harsh way, not in hard way, not destroy them. They are already into a lot of problems, but you must tell them. You must. The most essential component of adult education is you must make them accountable. You must make them responsible. You can be good, but you must be firm. You must be very firm. You must be very firm. Never ever. I follow you. You must tell them very clearly. You are not learning. That is the most essential function of assessment. Repeated assessments. We'll speak about that. And this is most essential. And we never, unfortunately, we never use assessment as a tool for feedback. Feedback must be given. Frankly, honestly, transparently, you must tell them. And what else? So first is curriculum. Second is learning methods. Your intelligence to select appropriate creative methods so that the objectives are achieved, and time to time regular assessment so that you know whether they are not learning or whether they are learning. If they are not learning, give the feedback. If they are learning, also give the feedback. Pat on their back. Appreciate.
Giving the feedback, I think with the feedback also we can counsel the students to improve them.
Feedback is a very component of counseling. Very important component. Very important. I will speak about it. How to give the feedback is a problem. But because the way we give feedback, you will never ever come back to it again. Am I right? Your intentions are good, but the way we communicate that this thing, that's not the way. Feedback must result in beautiful change. Are you following? The basic purpose of giving feedback is the change must happen without hurting them, without destroying their self-esteem. That's most essential. I request you, as whatever may happen, never ever destroy their self-esteem. Never ever destroy their dignity. Are you following? That is most essential. They'll never come back to you again. It's all over. Are you following? So what next? Three things: curriculum, learning methods, assessment, and the most essential, the fourth one, which we always miss. All problems, all difficulties in education because we have missed this beautiful dimension. When only learning is possible. Learning is only possible if you take care of the fourth dimension. What is the fourth dimension?
Outcome. What is the outcome of this?
Outcome is objectives. Outcome-based learning is very clearly tells what are the outcomes. Reaching out as part of a feedback, part of a learning method. What? When learning is possible.
Now you reflect.
Reflection when possible. When reflection is possible. Excellent. You must make them reflect, but when reflection is possible, when you are able to reflect.
When assessment is done, feedback is also given.
Feedback is given. But reflection has to happen. You are very correct, right track, right path. Please speak.
Can you see what are the reasons that I am not getting this?
Exactly. You analyze.
Analyze.
You reflect.
Reflect.
You do the right things.
And
But
then
if
child
this
is
has to happen, if this has one person to happen, what more sustenance? Shall I ask you a question? Very difficult question. Very serious question. आप काबिल हैं? जवाब दे सकते हैं? You are right. पूछूं क्या? पूछूं? हाँ? What confident? पूछूं क्या? क्या है? पूछूं? Very difficult question. Do you like girls? Do you like girls? Do you like girls? I don't like girls. There is a boy, 6-year-old fellow, nice fellow, good fellow, wonderful fellow. First standard, which standard? Which standard? First standard. Remarkable, brilliant, super, genius, fantastic. After 3 months of schooling, the class teachers sends the progress report to the mother. Is called mother. Beautiful card, cute card, nice card. On the top is boy's name. Then there are 2 vertical columns. How many columns? 2 vertical columns. English 3 plus. How many plus? 3 plus. General science 4 plus. Social studies 5 plus. On the bottom there are 2 horizontal lines where the teacher has written about the mother. Written to the mother. Your son is excellent. He is very smart. He is very super. He is brilliant. He is genius. But he has a small problem. He has a small mother. Your son is all the time playing with. He has a very dirty, stupid habit. He all the time plays with girls. Plays with girls. But mother, you don't worry, mother. I have a very powerful plan. I have used that plan on your son, and I am very sure the plan is going to work. And when the plan is going to work, I am very sure your son is going to come out of the dirty, stupid habit. Mother is so happy. You know how mothers are. Abba. She even writes to the teacher a note. Teacher. Thank you so much, teacher. Your compassion, your care, your concern, your goodness. Thank you so much, teacher. I hope, I wish, I pray your plan is going to work. And when the plan is going to work, please give me the details of the plan so that I can use that plan on his father. बेटा बहुत खुश हो गए, ओहो सब बहुत खुश हो गए. If you ask me, thank you so much. This is the most beautiful moment when you are able to laugh. Without any fear, without any hesitation, heartily, openly, you must be able to laugh. The most remarkable thing, the only thing is my ability, your ability to laugh at yourself. In such a way, remarkable way, without hurting anybody, you must be able to laugh. You know what happens when you are able to laugh? When laughter is possible. Please observe, if you are able to laugh, at that point of that beautiful moment, you feel so good when you laugh. And when you laugh, what happens?
Mind is relaxed.
Mind is relaxed. Mind got space. I find beautiful space. Suddenly, you are so tense, you are so anxious, you are frustrated. One laughter. Ha 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 ha. To create a beautiful space. That's only possible when you are able to. Thank you so much. How this laughter is possible? Serious people, a workshop, and the way you are able to laugh. But before that, I must ask one very important question. We all like girls, right? Sajid, do you like girls? All of them? You like girls? Sajid, you like girls? Yeah. My God, what is that? But the only question is asking, do you like boys? Do you like boys? Really? Old boys also? ताकते रहते तुझको साथ सवेरे नैनों में बसिया तेरे नैनों में तेरे नैनों तेरे मस्त मस्त दो हैं. I thought it's a remarkable moment, and this kind of laughter, this kind of sense of belonging, this kind of singing is only possible when you feel comfortable. When you feel comfortable, when you feel safe. The most essential thing, in my presence, I may be your father, I may be your mother, I may be your teacher, in my presence you must feel safe. You must feel safe. Because when you feel safe, you rest, you relax, you become tranquil, you become peaceful, you have space. Most essential. This is most essential. This is the ultimate magic. If you expect learning must happen, in your presence, in your classroom, your students must feel safe. The most basic complaint all of us have is, why my students doesn't interact? They don't participate, they're not interested, they never resolve their doubts, they never ask questions. Am I right? Am I right? Why? Why do you think they're not asking any questions? Why don't they come very close to us? Why don't they sit with us? Why don't they try to solve their problems? Why don't they clarify their doubts? They are not feeling safe. Safe to ask, safe to resolve, safe to doubt, safe to argue. Don't think they are not interested. Please understand. They will not feel safe, they will not feel safe. Especially to make mistakes. They must make mistakes, am I right? Am I right? They must make mistakes. And they can make mistakes only when they feel. This is most essential. This is why I have miserably failed. We have excellent curriculum, remarkable curriculum, excellent learning methods, complete foolproof assessment methods. But why we have failed is, we have miserably failed to create that safe learning environment. Safe learning environment. A safe learning environment. This is most essential. In my classroom, not only in my classroom, in my home, my wife, my son, my daughter, my father, my grandmother, my uncle, my relatives, they must feel safe. More safe. Completely safe. ये माहौल जो है, ये कल्चर जो है, ये एटमॉस्फेयर जो है, you feel so good. You feel so good. I feel so good. My teacher has come. He will never hurt me. He will never insult me. I follow him. This is extremely essential. Then only they will receive. I will ask you a very simple question. With whom you are willing to receive? You don't receive from anybody, right? With whom? Each naturally, beautifully, spontaneously, with whom you are very comfortable to receive something. Somebody who feels safe. With whom you feel safe. You totally naked, you become transparent. You become yourself. No mask, no makeup. इतना natural, so spontaneous, so joyful, आराम से, खुल के, किसके साथ? ऐसे मस्ती, so much of fun, so much of joy, so much of pleasure, so much of fun, so much of space. With whom?
Whoever is not judging you.
Whoever is not judging you. Who is the person who will never judge you? वो कौन है बंदा? Who will never judge you? Who will not measure you? Who will not?
Parents.
Can you be more specific? Who? Oh, with whom you can totally open up. Absolutely no fear. अरे यार, आपके यार, am I right? Who is your friend? Of course, father can be a friend, mother can be a friend, but in that friendship, you become totally naked. Absolutely no hesitation, no inhibition. You simply start opening up. I mean, that's only possible with that. That friendship is ultimate. दौलत और जवानी एक दिन तो जाती है, सच कहता हूँ सारी दुनिया दुश्मन हो जाती है. दौलत और जवानी एक दिन तो जाती है, सच कहता हूँ सारी दुनिया दुश्मन हो जाती है। उम्र भर दोस्त लेकिन साथ चलते हैं, हाँ हाँ हाँ, दिए जलते हैं, फूल खिलते हैं। मगर इस दुनिया में अच्छे दोस्त, सच्चे दोस्त बहुत मुश्किल से। क्या हम आपके दोस्ती के काबिल हैं? Can I be your friend? Thank you so much. Can I be your friend? Can I be your friend? Please. Can I be your friend?
Yes, sir.
मैं आपके दोस्ती के काबिल हूँ,
Yes.
हकदार हूँ। Can we live in friendship? Can we become your friends? Can we become your friends? Thank you so much. This is the ultimate. Friendship in the sense, I'm not saying that you must go and sit and drink with them, not that way. But the essence, the spirit of friendship. What is the essence of friendship? When you say I'm your friend, what is the basic essence of friendship? It's not dependence. The trust, the ability, the capacity to communicate. अरे यार, मेरा यार, ए दोस्ती हम नहीं छोड़ेंगे, छोड़ेंगे दम मगर तेरा साथ न छोड़े। Whatever you may be, man, I will always there for you. I will always there for you. In good times, in bad times, in difficult times, in party times, I will always support you. I will never again boast against you. I will never ever hurt you. Right? Why do you feel safe? Because you see the possibility that I can hurt you. I can hurt you. I'm not saying that you hurt them, but you see the possibility that I can. Because I have the power. I'm a teacher, I'm a father, I'm a parent. And you see very clearly that I can hurt you. So it's very simple. Can I make a very beautiful promise in the sense, whatever may happen, never ever I will hurt you. Kamal ho gaya. If you create that mahful, it's a beautiful thing. If you have to create that magic, and you see the power of magic, they simply start growing. They simply start flowering. Ultimate function of education is, I must flower. Whatever I may be, I have to flower. I must bloom, I must blossom, I must grow. I have seen a tree growing. I have seen a tree. I have really seen a tree. Deep roots, strong trunk, branches full of flowers, fruits, leaves, open to sky, open to moon, open to breeze. What a remarkable sight to see. Absolute no fear. The birds enjoying, the birds celebrating. Beautiful thing to see. Remarkable thing. The shade, the shelter. तुमको देखा कोई ख्याल आया, जिंदगी धूप तुम घना साया, तुमको देखा तो ये ख्याल आया, जिंदगी धूप तुम घना साया। You are the ultimate shade. You are my ultimate shelter. You are my ultimate friend. तुम चले जाओगे तो सोचेंगे, तुम चले जाओगे तो समझेंगे, हमने क्या खोया, हम क्या। What I lost, man. These many years, 40 years, so many students came, so many of them came, so many of them came. I've simply lost. जिंदगी धूप तुम घना साया. Never ever lose a person. Ultimately, I'm not finding fault with anybody, but ultimately one day you may lose your own son. तो आपसे दुख हो जाएंगे, बहुत दुख हो जाएंगे. आज फिर दिल में एक all is well, all is well, all is well. You are my blessing. You are my son, you are my wife, you are my father, you are my mother, you are my student. I am blessed to have you as my friend. आज फिर दिल को हमने समझाया. Please, extremely good people, remarkable people. Please don't find fault with anybody. Your father, your mother, your spouse, your family, your students, your life, your joy, your celebration. ओ किरण से दिल की करम से लिखे बेरोज बातें कैसे बताऊं किस किस तरह से पल पल मुझे तो सताती. चांदी ने रोका, पानी ने रोका, दुनिया ने हंसकर पुकारा. क्या जो आए मन हो जाए जैसे हिमालय में धागा. हाँ बादल बिजली चंदन पानी जैसा अपना प्यार लेना होगा जन्म हमें कहीं कहीं बार. हाँ इतना मधुर तेरा मेरा प्यार लेना होगा जन्म हमें कहीं कहीं बार. कहीं कहीं बार. कहीं perhaps I started my daughter, my student, then I feel like coming back again and again to me. In my classroom, when I take classroom, my student must feel like coming back to my class again and again. What a blessing. And that's only possible when they feel peace. Extremely good people. Be natural, be spontaneous. You simply give and that is the magic. They will come. Never ever say they are not interested. Please ask yourself whether you have made your teaching interesting. One thing is very essential. Whatever they happen, they must learn. They are not learning, that's the problem. They don't find it relevant. Am I right? The moment they see they are learning, if all come in the middle of it, they will come. They will come. Not only they will come, the way they come, and they will give you so much of love. I am telling you, my God, that innocence love, you will explode. Your eyes will fill with tears, your heart will be full of joy, and you start singing. Are you following me? Ultimate source of joy is my ability to make a person learn. If you achieve this one simple task, that's the only one task why you have come to this life. And you have become teachers. Who is a teacher? When you consider as a teacher? We'll speak about that. But thank you so much. 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 Look at me. Simply look at me. Simply look at me. Simply look at me. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Stop here. We'll take a break for tea. Am I right? Any point of time, please feel free. Stop us. Ask. Participate. Interact. Have a conversation. You're absolutely free. Absolutely no fear. I'm here. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We have a very interesting and very, very important session after the tea break. How we can give a lecture? We give lecture. How we can give lecture? And in lecture, how we can make them learn? Ultimately, it's very simple. Whatever you do, they must. Even when you sing a song, they must. In the process, they can enjoy also. But when they enjoy, they will learn. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'll stop here. We'll take a break for a cup of tea. Please have a cup of tea and then please come back.
Second session in this workshop The entire workshop will revolve around this concept, which Sudhakar shared with you, and that is, every session in this workshop will eventually go back to this. It will either go to one of the circles or to that big square, safe learning environment. So you will be able to relate every session in this workshop to this grid. You will place them. So we will repeatedly go back to this. And at the end of it, we will see which sessions fall into which of these blocks. Of course, eventually everything will come under the safe learning environment. The session that we have this morning is titled The Vanishing Art of Lecturing. Why did I title this The Vanishing Art? Today it is considered unfashionable to give lectures, even less fashionable to attend lectures. Because in an age, in this digital age, when people want not to attend lectures, when we start giving lectures, people will say you are obsolete, you are outdated, you belong to a different generation. Today nobody gives lectures and nobody even attends lectures because it is considered fashionable to have lectureless classes or whatever you call it, lectureless institutions. We don't want to, we are not come to a stage where it is teacherless, then we will all be out of jobs. But at least it is considered fashionable to have curricula which are lectureless. And it is the trend today. There are universities which advertise and say, you can go through this course without attending a single lecture. That too has come in. So I'm just telling you this. So that's why I call this a vanishing art. Why did I call it art? Like all good things in life, when your heart is in it, it becomes an art. Can your heart come into lecturing? If your heart is not there, you may have all the skills, you may have all the abilities, but if your heart is not there, it will not become an art. So we will see what is it that we can do to make lecture an art. And I am here to resurrect it. This fool is coming to resurrect lecturing when we should be considering burial, cremation and saying goodbye to lectures. You might wonder. I am here treading on very dangerous ground. When I say I am here to resurrect it, you should have said, no, you should have presided over the cremation of lectures. You should have said goodbye to lectures. This is the funeral for lectures. This is not the time to resurrect it and revive it and reactivate it. But let us see. We will examine this very carefully and closely and see whether it is possible at all, whether it is necessary at all. I will not give you an answer now. We will take an answer hopefully at the end of the session. So I titled this Resurrecting the Vanishing Art of Lecturing, and I'm going to start with the definition of a lecture. Lecture is defined as uninterrupted rambling exposition of apparently irrelevant trivial information delivered in a sleep-inducing monotone for 1 hour. Would you accept this definition of a lecture? Would you accept this? No? You all were amused by this definition. Please remember, this definition came from someone who suffered because of constant and continuous infliction of lectures. The only useful thing that came out was this definition. This was written by a bitter critic of lecture who suffered so much that this critic came out with this definition. So most of us, lecture is a torture. When you use the word lecture and you hear lecture, what is the echo that you get? Torture. Nobody will willingly go and sit in a lecture unless there is an obligation, some pressure, some attendance requirement, or somebody has said you go and sit in that lecture. Then they will go and sit. Otherwise, willingly nobody will go and sit in a lecture because you don't want to be tortured. And this definition, though it seems to be an exaggeration, really speaking, all of us have suffered because of these things happening. Very often we suffer because the lecture is uninterrupted. The person goes on giving a monologue. There is no scope for you to be active. you are in a very passive state. So it is often uninterrupted. Then the lecture becomes a pain. Second, rambling exposition of apparently irrelevant, trivial information. When you lecture, what is your objective? You want to show off. I know this much, you don't know all this. So you want to show off your knowledge. In your attempt to show off all that you know, you talk trivial things, out of the way things, remote things, footnotes, things which they may not easily have access to. You want to show off, I know this much. You cannot get access to all this. That is what you want to show off, not cause learning. So in the process, you don't talk fundamental things. You don't talk foundational things. You don't talk things which are so basic and rudimentary. Because you want to show off that I know this much. Other things, why should I talk fundamental things that they can get anyway? But these things I will tell them. So it's very aptly said, exposition of apparently irrelevant. We talk about trivial things in a lecture and we deliver it in a most boring way. And that is, we have suffered because of all this. All of us have suffered from lectures. And we still continuously suffer from lecture because of all these things happening. So I am starting with this definition only to provoke you with a thought that when we experience a lecture, it is possible for us to suffer because of these things. And with this provocation, I am going to go ahead with a classification of the lecturers we have had in our life. Look back at your own lives. From the time you were in school till yesterday, till today, you can broadly classify your lecturers into one of these three categories. Three categories I'll explain to you with no offense meant. Lecturers who are all equally qualified, well-read, experienced people, but you can broadly classify them into one of these three. The first I call the obfuscator, the confusion master. Pardon me for saying that. We have had teachers, erudite scholars, very well read, but when they spoke, you got more confused than clarified. You wondered, why did I listen to this person? I am so confused now. It is so clear in the book, but having listened to this person, I am now confused. The intention of that teacher was not to confuse you, but the teacher had so much to give. Give. Sudhakar was telling, he wanted to give. But in that giving, there is such a waterfall of giving. So much was there, you got confused. Obfuscator. The intentions of the teacher, it was good. The intention was good. I want to give everything I have. But when you gave so much, you were totally submerged and you were lost and you were confused. That's the first type of teacher. The second type of teacher is, I call the regurgitator. Yours faithfully is reproduced in the classroom. In other words, the textbook is reproduced in the classroom. Whatever information they can easily get is reproduced in the classroom. The student feels, why should I waste my time listening to someone when I can get this information at my own convenience, on my laptop, at my own pace? Regurgitator also fails because such a teacher really doesn't meet the requirements of the student. Feels there's nothing I'm going to gain by attending the lecture. So he's simply just regurgitating whatever is there, which I can anyway have access to. The third type, whom I would call a good teacher, but I'm using another word, facilitator. Basically a teacher, a lecturer who facilitates learning. A facilitator of learning. I'm not using the word good because good is an opinion. Anybody who facilitates learning will be effective. And effectiveness in lecturing is determined by how much you can facilitate learning, how much you can avoid being regurgitators, how much you can avoid being obfuscators. It simply means when we function as lecturers in a classroom, let us gravitate consciously towards facilitation, scrupulously avoid being regurgitators and obfuscators. The good teachers are not people who told everything. They must have told a few things, but those things you remember forever. They didn't confuse you. They simplified things. They didn't confuse you. And that is what I mean by saying facilitation. I'll explore this. This entire session is about how to make lectures an opportunity to facilitate learning. So we explore this as we go along. Those of you who are noting down, I'm just informing you, I'm going to make all these available to you. If the PowerPoint is required, you can just take a pen drive or we'll send it by email to you. You don't feel compelled to write down only because you feel that you might miss out. You are most welcome. We are happy to share whatever we are using in this workshop with you. So there's nothing. As we always believe, we want to give unconditionally to you. Please make use of it. That is our intention. Having said that, now we look at the vanishing art of lecturing under 3 headings. The first is lecturalgia. Myalgia means muscle pain. Arthralgia means joint pain. Lecturalgia means pain resulting from constant infliction of lectures, which all of us have suffered, and our students are suffering now. Lecturalgia. We look at lecturalgia, a term I did not coin. It has been in the literature. I'll talk about lecturalgia, why we suffer, what are the manifestations of lecturalgia. Then we will look at what are the indications for lecturing. When do you give a lecture? You can't give lecture for everything. For teaching swimming, you can't give a lecture. For teaching certain skills, you can't give a lecture. There are indications. When will you use a lecture? We will examine that. Then we will closely, carefully, critically look at lecture as a method. What is its role as a teaching learning method? That is where this session is about the method. One of the learning methods we use, commonly we use, a learning method that we use is lecture. It is suitable only for certain things to be conveyed in a particular way. So we are focusing on that circle in this session. So we look at that. I'll start with lecturalgia. The word lecturalgia means painful lecture. It has been in the literature since the year 2001. It has not been a word, I didn't create this. What does it mean? The word lecturalgia simply means painful lecture. It means a disease. Syndrome means disease. A disease experienced by members of lecture to audience. Now when you constantly inflict lectures on someone, there are some manifestations. Manifestations include heightened emotions like agitation, frustration and anger. But unfortunately you cannot express this. Some risk is involved. Big man is talking, professor, big man. So if you express all this, there is some risk involved. Our examiner is talking, he might fail you in the exam. Some threat is there, some fear is there. So heightened emotions may be there, but if they can take a risk, they will take a risk. But often they won't, because it is difficult. More often what you have is suppressed emotions. What is suppressed emotion? One is apathy. Nothing comes out of lecture. I have to go. Somebody has asked me to go for the lecture. I have to go. I go with reluctance, with reservation, with lot of doubt. Nothing comes out of it, but I have to go either for attendance or some obligation, some pressure, some compulsion makes you go. But you go there and sit without no particular welcoming approach to the lecture. Then comes the single most effective side effect of lecture: sleep. No other teaching learning method has such a powerful impact as a lecture in causing sleep. I'm telling you, the most effective way to put people to sleep is lecture. If you have insomnia, if you suffer from an inability to sleep, please listen to a lecture. You don't need, I tell my doctor friends who prescribe sleeping pills and sedatives, I tell them forget all those. If somebody says I cannot sleep, you just ask him to attend the lecture, he will fall asleep. The most effective way to put people to sleep, I tell you, is lecture. Try it. Next time when you can't sleep, please listen to a lecture, you will fall asleep. I am telling you, those of you who suffer from sleeplessness, please look at that. There was a class teacher who was talking, one particular, it was a second standard class, and the teacher was talking about the divinity of being a mother. Mother is the ultimate. God could not come, mother came to earth. Mother is everything. Mother, mother, mother. The entire talk was about motherhood, the divinity of being a mother, and how wonderful it is to have a mother. At the end of the talk, the teacher asked a question: who is greater in this world, a mother or a teacher? One boy sitting in the last row raised his hand and said, Teacher is greater than mother. The class teacher was very upset. I have been telling you about the divinity of a mother, the virtues of a mother, the wonderful nature of a mother, and you are telling me teacher is greater. Why? And this boy said, in my home, I have a little brother. To put that fellow to sleep, my mother has to sing and dance and do so many things. He will never fall asleep. Whereas you, when you start speaking, all 40 of us are asleep in one This is greatness for that student. The greatness is determined by how quickly you can put maximum number of people to sleep. That is what lecture does. And that, if not anything else, the side effect of this lecture is more powerful than any of the other effects. The learning effect of a lecture is much, perhaps lesser compared to this powerful. You will never think of people falling asleep in a project or a seminar or a tutorial or a practical. We always associate sleep with lectures. We have heard of talking during sleep. When does that happen? When you are mentally disturbed, you go to sleep, something has happened, and you talk during sleep. But have you heard of sleep during talk? It happens during lecture. Sleep and lecture are very closely intertwined. Be aware of it. Let us not escape this fact. The more you are aware, the more you will do something that will circumvent or prevent this sleep happening. And this session in the afternoon, there's a session breaking the monotony, is about how to engage students in not just a lecture situation, anything that will make them active in their learning process. The problem with lecture is it's the most passive of the methods of learning, and therefore it is ineffective. So we have to be aware of this, and then your lecture becomes. Today the trend for lecturing itself is changing, but the change moves towards making the student more active as a learner. Having said that, we look at the causes of lecture. Why do people suffer from the ill effects of lecture? One is lecture objectives are not clear. We often don't tell them why we are talking about it. We don't tell them why it is important for you, and that is coming to this issue where Sudhakar was telling you, curriculum. We have to tell them, these are the things you should know. We often don't make the lecture objectives clear. We simply start. In our case, to complete the portion, we simply start and they wonder, why am I learning all this? How is it going to help me? So if you don't make your lecture objectives clear, not just once, several times you have to tell them why it is important. Because first time it might not register. So if the lecture objectives are not clear, very often the students will be switched off. Second, lecture is disorganized. We often have teachers who have so much information, all coming in a haphazard, confused manner, not coming in a logical sequence, and the student, poor student, hearing all this for the first time gets confused. So when it is disorganized, when you have so much experience and so much knowledge, unless you organize it and present it in a way that is easily assimilable, they will not understand. If you want to take medication, if you want to take medicines, you want it as a tablet, you want it as a capsule, you want it as a syrup, so that maximum effect is there. You take the concentrated component and then you get the effect. Whereas when you give a lecture, you simply dump information. You don't care whether you pick it up or not. So if it is disorganized, for that student who is commencing his career or her career, he or she may not be able to grasp the fundamentals. So when it is disorganized, often it may not have its impact. Third, too much, too fast. As teachers, in our intention to cover all that we want to cover, we give too much too fast. And the pace of their understanding may not keep pace with the pace of your delivery. They will not be able to grasp it. You are telling something once and you have no time to repeat, and in the process you simply go at breakneck speed, and in the process the student is lost. After some time you simply say, I have had enough, I can take it no longer. So please remember, this is another reason for lecturalgia. Too much, too fast. A common mistake made by most teachers, particularly when you commence your teaching career, you always want to cover the portion, and in the process you go at breakneck speed and don't realize that your students are not able to catch up with you. Do not relate or respond to audience needs. It means you teach your subject, you don't teach your subjects. What do I mean by this? You are teaching your subject civil engineering, metallurgy, whatever. You are teaching your subject, but you are not teaching your students. You teach your subject but not your subjects. It simply means you have no concern and care for your students. I will teach my subject, I don't care whether he or she learns. If that is the attitude, if that concern and care is not there, no matter what you do, you will only cause lecture algae. This is perhaps of these, I think this is paramount. Let us remember, if we don't have that concern and care, my student, is he understanding something? Are you with me? Do you understand something at least? If that concern and care is not there, none of those things are going to work. At the end of it all, your best teachers are those who have that concern and care for you. I wanted you to learn something at least. That concern and care. That is the underlying principle in any good teacher's function. And be aware of that. And that's what I mean by saying you do not relate or respond to audience, which simply means you teach your subject. Your allegiance to the subject is much more than your loyalty to your students. My subject is more important. I don't worry about my students. That's the attitude that will probably undermine the functioning of a lecture. Now we ask this question. Now I'm giving you the indications. Why do you lecture? If lecture has got so many problems, let us condemn lectures, let us banish lectures and say no lectures. If that is so, then we ask this question: why lecture first to inspire, second to influence, third and only third to inform? Unfortunately, we often do the reverse. We inform first, influence rarely, inspire never. And in the process, they'll say nothing comes out of lecture. What comes out of lectures? Only people come out of lecture. Nothing comes out of lecture. It's a total waste. Please remember, first to inspire. I've used the font size to indicate the importance. First to inspire. At the end of the lecture, the student must be touched by that lecture. There's nothing that you can offer, information they can always get, but inspiration and influencing can never happen without the living, loving teacher. If you create a feeling, handout is there, no? PowerPoint is there, no? Notes are there, no? I don't have to go for lecture. That's the ultimate insult to a teacher. You are equated with something inanimate. Some PowerPoint, some sheaf of notes, some handout. That means you are equated to that inanimate object. Please remember, inspiration and influencing, that is possible only by that living, loving teacher. And information they can get without you, but not inspiration and influencing. The student must feel, if I attend a lecture, I'm going to get something. If I don't attend, I will miss something. And that is inspiration, influencing. And that's why we say at the end of the lecture.
So what is the difference between first two?
Okay.
Inspire and
They are very close, actually. Inspiration, influencing is influencing them to find out more, to learn more, to seek more on the topic. Influencing their behavior in some way. Inspiration is, it has left them with their hearts thumping. At the end of it, they feel, oh, there's something that hit them, and they don't know what. So, really speaking, it's difficult to draw the line. But influencing is something in their, you influence their behavior. Inspiration is something that hits them, they're not able to define. We are inspired by several people. But if it has made you change your behavior or your action, then you are also influenced. So, as I said, one will go into the other. You can't really, if you ask me, where will you draw the line? No, it may not be possible. Both will be happening concomitantly. And also along with that, information will come. So, really speaking, you can't show these as, I just showed it for convenience. That's it.
so we see the difference, information and this. But the first one is like inspire. We say that okay, this is a subject, this is useful in
Yes.
this way, that way, this way. So that is the inspiration of to learn this. But how to make the influence of return?
As I said, it is very, if you ask me to draw that line, it is difficult for me. But what I'm, yes.
My opinion would be like inspiration should come from within a student.
Yes.
And influence is what you are, trying to, push them or go towards that. That would be beneficial. But something might not be beneficial if still he is inspired, out of the box, related to the subject, not related to subject. Lot of things to be
Influencing relates to doing, you are influenced to do something. because you listen to that lecture, you are influenced to read more on the topic, to find out something more. I want to explore a little more on the topic. Now, inspiration is, you may still have inspiration, but you may not be influenced. May not. It may not. I'm just saying. So, you are very right in saying it's difficult to draw the line, but be aware that the ultimate is I want to be inspired, or at least we should inspire our students in some way. And you can't catch, it's like a cloud, you can't pin it down. So, inspiration, but the least of that is of course information. Information anybody can get without us. So that is why we say, if lecture is only to inform, don't lecture. Information you must give, some information is required, but I think what is more important is you must touch them. And that touching is possible through only inspiring and influencing. Now we ask this question, what makes a lecture effective? It's not anything that you do not know. I would like to give a structure and a skeleton to it. A lecture becomes effective when you have the expertise. All of us have expertise. All of us. In our own fields, we have expertise. That does not guarantee effectiveness in a lecture. Every teacher who lectured to you had the expertise. And yet you know, some teachers were more effective, some were less effective. Why? The rest of the E's are going to explain to you what makes the difference. What I am trying to tell you is expertise alone doesn't guarantee. Unfortunately, our university system is such, if you have the expertise, we appoint you as a teacher. No training required to teach. You know it, you can teach it. That is the assumption that we have. So we will see that. What makes the difference is engagement of the audience. An effective teacher, especially when he lectures, will make a conscious effort to engage. Some way, engagement on and off, in some way. And that is a session that we are going to have this afternoon. Lecturing is not telling. Lecturing is not just show and tell. Today with PowerPoint, we talk the slide, we talk to the slide, we never talk about the slide. We never talk about, because everything is there, you simply read the slide. Lecturing is not telling. It is not simply show and tell. It is talking about the slide, explaining ability. The best teachers you have had are teachers who are explaining, simplifying, clarifying. That is explaining ability. So that is what makes the difference between an effective teacher and a person who simply regurgitates. Then comes enthusiasm. If you are not enthusiastic about it, how can you infuse your students? You can't say, my students are not interested, when you yourself don't exhibit that enthusiasm. Enthusiasm should be infectious. This is one time when infection must happen. Enthusiasm must be infectious. And that is enthusiasm. And the next one is evoke interest. So I say, what will make the difference between an ineffective and an effective lecture are the latter four keys: engagement, explaining ability, and we are going to explore this as we proceed in this session. We will see what all we can do to make this happen. Expertise, yes, all of us have, but that doesn't guarantee effectiveness in lecture. Now, when we look at lecture as an instructional method, it's a teaching method, it is coming in this circle. We have three things we are going to look at. We are now going to attempt a definition different from what we saw first. Then we will look at certain misconceptions about lecturing, and then we will see simple, applicable, pragmatic, useful guidelines which you can apply tomorrow when you go back. I am not going to talk anything that is not applicable. And I will challenge you with some of these guidelines. So we will go on this journey, and I will start with the definition. The definition is not a detailed written definition. A simple definition which says a lecture is a discourse on a subject. You are the expert, you have the expertise, you can talk on that subject. But, the big but is here. You give a discourse where he, the teacher, relates with a large number of students. 60, 100, 150, 200, no problem. One teacher is enough. Convenience wise, it is easy. One teacher for a large number of students. Green arrow represents an attempt to convey. Unfortunately, though this is the most convenient, it is the most ineffective. Because in that number, in that large number, we have no personal contact. We lose that ability to find out whether you are learning it is very passive. Large number, convenient, when you have teacher shortage, it is convenient. But please remember, while one teacher tries to relate to a large number of students, often your class sizes I think will be around 60. Even then, 60 is a large number. And whatever it is, you will not have the same comfort for learning as you have a smaller group of 10 of you. Having said that, we now see the common misconceptions about lecturing. The first misconception, first myth about lecturing, we often equate covering information with teaching. We often say, I have to cover so many pages, I have to cover the portion. In this 1 hour, I have to cover the portion. Covering information is often equated with teaching. Please remember, the excitement is not in covering, it is in uncovering. What that means? That means you obviously can't cover everything. In your subject, you can never cover everything. But at least you can uncover certain areas which need to be uncovered and explained. So, the first myth, I'm going to link this to the guideline, but to begin with, let us look at the first common myth in lecturing. You say, I have taught because I covered so much. No. Covering information is not to be equated with teaching. I will explain this when I go to the first guideline later. Second one, speech making is often equated with instruction. This is the second myth. Speech making is for the politician. The politician will come and give a speech. He is not worried. People are coming in, people are going out, they are daydreaming, they are not understanding, they are talking to each other. He is not worried. He'll give his speech and he'll go. As an instructor, we as teachers instruct. Instruction means I am vitally concerned. Are you with me? Do you understand me? Something at least do you understand me? That concern, that care is there. If that concern and care is there, that is instruction. What the teacher does is instruction. What the politician does when he gives a public speech is speech making. Let us not give speeches in the classroom. You can give a speech, but it may not have its impact. It will not cause learning. So that's the second misconception. No questions means understanding. You lecture for 60 minutes and then you ask the class, any questions? Will anybody dare ask you a question? Because you will start your lecture again. Imagine the plight of somebody, one timid fellow who asks a question at the end of 60 minutes and then he asks me a question and I continue my lecture another 10 minutes. That's the end of the break time, coffee time, friendship time, lunch time is curtailed. What will happen to him? At the end, after I go, everybody will pounce on him and say, if you have any doubt, don't ask him at the end of the lecture. Go and ask him privately. No questions means we had enough of you, get lost. Please accept this fact. It's a humbling thought that we must have. When there is total silence at the end of 60 minutes, it is telling you, please get lost. That is a message. We had enough of you, please go. Don't ever think they ask you questions at the end, because there's a grave risk you will start your lecture again. So please be aware. No, and we often say, oh, everybody has understood, no questions. No, no questions does not mean understanding. No questions means we had enough of you. You please go. That is always nice to remember. Then comes next one. Least group reaction is often equated with learning. We often say, I had a fantastic student feedback. My students have learned so much. Don't equate a good student feedback with learning. Learning is something else. You will see that in the examination. We often equate a good student feedback with learning. These are not to be equated. Good student feedback is an indication that your students are very kind. They are very polite. They are very respectful. They always have tremendous love for their teachers. That is only or is shown by a good. The student will write good things about you. No matter what you do to them, they will write good things. Because one thing they are a little afraid that this fellow may do something in the exam. Or, out of respect for the teacher, generally they write good things. So, don't equate the pleased group reaction. While it is nice to have a pleased group reaction, don't equate that with learning. Then comes something which is very critical. We often equate academic success with teaching skill. What does this mean? Academic success with teaching skill. When you are to be appointed as a teacher in a university or an institution, what is the basis of that selection? Top student, gold medalist, first in every subject. Naturally you get selected because you are the best student. But please remember, the best student need not be the best teacher. Because, as it is said, we often equate academic success with teaching skill. That means your intellectual achievement as a student is often equated with teaching ability. You are the best student, no? So you can teach well. Please remember, they may turn out to be regurgitators, they may turn out to be obfuscators. I had my classmate, first in every subject, best outgoing student. He became a specialist, and when he spoke, nobody understood. I used to tell him, hey, I don't understand you. He says, that is your problem, not my problem. He has no concern. He says, it is not my problem that you don't understand. That means the best learner need not be the best teacher. I have nothing against being an achiever, the best student. I have nothing against that. But please be aware, the best student need not be the best teacher. And some of our obfuscators and regurgitators are teachers who were best in their times. But when they spoke, they confused us. Because they thought knowing alone is enough. And that is why it is very rightly said, the best learners often make the worst teachers. They are, in a very real sense, perceptually challenged. Meaning, they cannot imagine what it must be like to struggle to learn something that comes so naturally to them. What they learn so easily, why can't they understand? So this is the problem. Let us be aware, as teachers, let us be aware. I might have understood it, but my student, he is grappling with the fundamentals. And that concern and care will come. So very often these people are at that level, and they are not able to come down. And when you don't have that concern and care for someone who is struggling to learn, then learning may not happen. So these are the myths. Having said that, we'll now step on to the pedal and see what are the guidelines. These guidelines are built on the steps, and I'll start built on these myths, and I will start with the first one. Don't be complete. I mentioned you don't cover everything, and that is true with giving a lecture. The first fundamental principle in giving a lecture is don't be complete. I had a professor who used to come to class, and she said, what is not covered in the class will be covered in the examination. She used to say, what is not covered in the class will be covered in the examination. And we used to laugh, look at this. But she said, she was very, very clear. She said, my dear students, she used to bring the book and say, this is the book you have to read. She used to bring the book to class and say, this is the book I want you to read. This is the chapter I want you to read. This is the book. I will hold you accountable for what is in this book. This chapter, telling them very clearly, objectives are made very clear. What is it that you must know is in this book. Please read this book. I am not here to tell you everything. Please read this book. She used to repeatedly say that. Exams came, at the end of the semester, she asked questions about which she spoke. Nothing in the class. We went to her and said, what happened? She said, why have you come here? These things you didn't teach in the class. She took the book and showed. This is where it is. From that day we started reading the book. Why I am saying is, the first thing you must announce, advertise, and tell your students is, I am not here to teach you everything. I will show you the objectives. These are the things you should know. Make the objectives clear. Tell them this is what you must know. But I am not going to teach you everything. You must read the book. I will show you the way. You must do the walking. You must do the reading. You must do the learning. You must do the sprinting. That is a very, very difficult concept for us as teachers to access. Very difficult, because our teachers are very smart. You know what they say? There is no one book. You have to read 5 books. And I am talking not only from several books, from my experience, from all my knowledge. So you jolly well listen to me. And you say 5 books. The poor student, he says, I have 5 subjects. And you are telling me to read 5 books in your subject. He will not read any book. He will read notes. Seniors' notes. That's all he will read. Because he wants to pass his exam. That is reality. If you have some concern and care, you will say, for this topic, please read this chapter, this book. At least this much you should know. Please read this book. Give the reference and tell them these are the things you should know. If you do that, even if you don't teach, it doesn't matter. You tell them what you must know. And that is making the learning objectives clear and also telling them the source. This is the book that you should know. It's very difficult for us because we'll say, no, they'll find fault with us saying that you didn't teach in the class. You have told them what is to be learned. You have shown them where it is to be found. Make them accountable and say you are responsible for the learning. I am here to explain those things that need explanation and clarification. First guideline, very difficult for us to accept. I'll give you a simple example what it is not to be complete. Just I'll give you an example in health sciences. There's a condition called aplastic anemia. Don't worry about the name. This is a condition where the bone marrow, our bone has got a factory of cells. It produces cells. When the bone marrow does not produce cells, it is factory failure, and that is production failure, and that is called aplastic anemia. I'm just imagining I'm taking a class on aplastic anemia. I go to class and say, there are 50 causes of aplastic anemia. In the book there are 50 causes in a nice tabular column. It is pointless if I stand here and say there are 50 causes and I show all the 50 causes. Anybody can see it in the book. Why should you waste your time projecting that and reading it? They can find it in their book at their own convenience. You tell them there are 50 causes. I am not here to tell you those 50 causes, but I am here to tell you these 50 causes will come under 6 I's. Inborn causes, infection, irradiation, insecticides, iatrogenic means caused by drugs or idiopathic. I'm just giving an example. Go, open your book, and those 50 causes will all come under 6 I's. That is being not complete. You don't have to tell them everything. Those 50 causes are there, but please see that approach, that avenue that they see to look at those 50 causes. And that is what I mean by saying don't. So that is where your experience and expertise will come. I want them to remember, but those causes you can broadly categorize. I'm just giving an example of what it is not to be complete. What it is not to be complete means giving them an approach so that they have a view of looking at those causes in a particular way, the way you want them to remember. That's your personal perspective. The second one, don't mention anything once. If something is important, it is worth repeating, reinforcing, reiterating, recalling. Very often we have no time to tell once, because we say, when there is so much to teach, I don't have time to tell only once. Where is the question of my repeating and recalling? That is possible if you have decided you are not going to tell everything. I had a professor who was speaking about the mitral, there's a valve in the heart called mitral valve. That valve can get narrowed. That is called mitral stenosis. Stenosis means narrowing. This professor came to class and said, my dear students, there are 5 causes of mitral stenosis. First cause, rheumatic carditis. Second cause, rheumatic carditis. Third cause, rheumatic carditis. Fourth cause, rheumatic carditis. Fifth cause, rheumatic carditis. We thought this fellow something gone wrong. 5 times you are telling the same thing. He said, see, nothing's wrong with me. I am telling you, the most frequent cause of mitral stenosis in India, as far as you students are concerned, is rheumatic carditis. I will mention this one important cause 5 times, rather than mentioning all the causes once. When you are teaching, you want to cover everything. If there are 5 causes, you will tell all the 5 causes once. And then you will go back next week and say, I told you in the last class, you told in the last class, but only once you said. And once when you tell, everything is clean forgotten. And they won't know which is important, which is not important. And this professor said, I don't care if you don't remember the other causes. I care that you will remember this one important cause, and I will repeat that 5 times. Till today I have not forgotten what it is. That is the effect of repetition and reinforcement. Something important, it is worth repeating. If you are going to tell only once, first time they are hearing, they will forget. And when they forget, if you tell only once, it will be clean forgotten. As good as not telling. So the second is, don't mention anything once, simply means fundamental things, important concepts, repeat and reinforce. Because your students are hearing it for the first time. They might never have heard those terms, those ideas, those concepts. You may need to reinforce it, approach it differently, and tell them the same thing over and over again. It's not spoon feeding. If you have a child at home, you will spoon feed your child. When you have a student you don't want to spoon feed, you say they must become self-directed learners. That concern is not there. And that is why we don't mention, if something is important, repeat it. Third one, and that is what is in this quotation. Tell them what you are going to say. Say it. Tell them what you have said. It simply means repeat, reinforce, recall, recollect. Essentially, what is important, please repeat. That's the second guideline. Third one, don't regurgitate. Don't simply restate, create. Be creative means be novel. Be unique in your own way. And for this, I take you back to my own life when I was a medical student. It was a situation where in the outpatient department, we had a patient who had a back problem. And my professor, he brought that patient and put the patient on the couch. Patient was made to sit on the couch. And my professor said, my dear students, there were 15 of us. He said, my dear students, please stand back. Please watch me. And you know what he said? When the British ruled India, they were lords. Then he walked like this. Now, this buffoon, what are you doing? He said, please watch me very carefully. When the British ruled India, they were lords. Then he walked like this. He said, backward bending of the spine is lordosis. He introduced this word lordosis. Lordosis is backward bending of the spine. He made this patient walk. Patient was sitting there. Patient was made to walk. The patient walked like this because he had lordosis. He said this patient is not a lord, but he has lordosis. When the British ruled India, they did not have lordosis, but they were lords. Till today, I have not forgotten what is lordosis. My professor is dead and gone, but he lives in me forever. At that time, in that buffoonery, in that laughter, there was learning. He mocked at himself. We laughed at him. But in that laughter, there was learning. He need not have done that. Out of concern that at the end of this learning, I want my students to at least remember what is lordosis. He did that. Had it been a conventional teacher, that teacher would have said, there are 3 types of back deformities. Lordosis, kyphosis, scoliosis. Scoliosis is sideways bending of the spine. Kyphosis is forward bending. These terms are unheard of. First time you are hearing and you get confused which is which. And when you have a patient, you don't know where you are dealing with. My professor at that point eventually introduced all these terms. But what I am trying to tell you is, he did it in his own way, with no approach, so that the impact was tremendous. And he lives in me forever. This is what I call creativity. Creativity is that ability to do things that will be a little out of the way. It might even be mocking at, are you able to make them laugh? Laugh at yourself. And in that laughter will there be learning. And to understand the creativity, I'll now try to explain what is, creativity is just a word. It doesn't mean much. I just told you what is creativity. I gave you an example of creativity. Let us try to understand what is creativity. To understand the creativity, we look at 2 dimensions. The dimension of a teacher who is useful and not useful. At one end, a teacher, I hope no teacher is not useful. But for the sake of completion, for this range, for this spectrum, I need to talk about a teacher who is not useful. At the other end, a useful teacher, I call this the utility axis. Then you have the vertical axis where the teacher is novel, very interesting. And a teacher who is boring, not novel. I call this the novelty axis. Combine and you get 4 quadrants. You have a teacher who comes into this category, not useful, nothing to learn from this teacher, not novel. I hope no teacher ever comes in this category. But I am completing the 4 quadrants because at least for the sake of understanding creativity, we need that. And I call this teacher the old goat, maybe young goat also. But the important thing is the teacher doesn't contribute to learning, teacher is not interesting. I speak no more, no one belongs to this category. Then comes a large number of our teachers who belong to this category. Pedantic bores. Lot of information, regurgitation, obfuscation, but bore. I can't get the head and tail of what is being spoken. Pedantic bore, because the teacher has not made it interesting. Lot of information. You want to give, but in that giving there is confusion, obfuscation, regurgitation. Then comes charlatan, mesmerizer, trickster. He will do all drama and circus. Subject is not there. Dangerous, much more dangerous than the other 2. Never ever be a charlatan. Charlatan is a trickster. He will do all this gimmicks. And what did he do? That I don't know. He did all this. Why he did? That also I don't know. Then the very purpose. If you do all this and it serves no purpose, then it's of no use. That is a charlatan. Then comes the creative teacher. So in my definition of a creative teacher is one who combines utility with novelty. Useful information presented in an interesting way. Simplest way to understand creativity. Substance plus style, or utility with novelty. That is creativity. You may wonder, how can I be creative? My subject is so abstract. The best ideas don't come when you're actually preparing. It will come between your preparations, when you think about it, when you're having a shower, when you're driving your vehicle, when you are at a walk. You think about it, suddenly your ideas will come. How can I make it interesting? That will come out. Your creative ideas will come only if you have that concern for your students. I want them to learn something. So out of that concern only creativity. If you don't have any concern, you will not care. You will not do anything differently. So creativity is usually an offshoot of the concern and care that you have for your students' learning. We have seen now, first one, don't be complete. Second, don't mention anything once. What am I doing now? Yes. Pardon me, I am not doubting your ability to remember, but I am just re-emphasizing the importance of this when we teach here. The importance of reinforcing and reiterating. Third one, don't restate, create. Wherever possible, whenever possible, in your own way, make it unique, make it personalized, so that people understand. Now you may wonder, why am I giving you guidelines negatively? Don't be complete. Don't mention anything once. Don't restate, create. You know why? Because the human mind understands negative messages better. No parking, he understands. Have you ever seen a board, yes parking? Till today I've never seen a board that says yes parking. Then you get confused. What is this? Yes parking? You think something is fishy here. Some trick is there. Some suspicion is there. No, we understand. There was a boy who went to school and the teacher asked, what is your name? And that boy said, my name is Johnny Don't. What? Teacher, what is your name? Johnny? Johnny Don't. I say, Johnny Don't. In his home, when he goes to the right, mother says, Johnny Don't. When he goes to the left, mother says, Johnny Don't. If he picks up something, mother says, Johnny Don't. So he thinks his name is Johnny Don't. We live in this world, don't. We are so fond of saying don't. Don't, we understand. Do means you become suspicious. There is some trick here. So, pardon me, we are presenting these negatively only because enough has been told. What to do in a lecture. I am telling you what you don't do in a lecture. If you don't do it, like a sculpture, you remove all that is unnecessary, you'll have a beautiful creation. And that is a lecture. You can make the lecture a creation, a beautiful creation, if you remove all the unnecessary things. And what are those unnecessary things? Don't tell everything. Don't tell only once. Don't regurgitate. Create. I'm just giving, that's why I'm presenting it negatively. Next one. Don't confess. Profess. Professor. Assistant professor. Associate professor. You profess something. You believe in something. You're enthusiastic about it. You can't come and say, the topic I'm taking today is a very difficult topic. I have read it 40 times in the last 10 years, but I have not understood it any better. Even though I have read it several times and I have tried to teach it, I really don't know what is right and what is wrong, because a lot of ideas and concepts are very confusing. In spite of it, I have to teach because I have been asked to teach this topic. It is there in your syllabus. In your curriculum, it is defined that this topic is there. So I have to teach. And I do not know whether you will understand. I don't even know whether what you write will be right or wrong. Professor standing here and saying difficult, I have read it 40 times and you will not understand. The student immediately switches off. Poor me, I am not going to learn anything. This man has not understood himself. Where am I going to learn? When you say, don't confess, profess, it simply means whatever you teach, you must teach with authority, with aplomb, with gusto, as if this is the most important thing. Even if it is something small, teach as if this is the most important thing in the world. That is enthusiasm. Essentially what it says is be enthusiastic. We often say our students are not interested. My question is, are you interested? Have you exhibited that interest? Have you been enthusiastic? If you are enthusiastic, inspiration. We are touched and inspired by people who have that passion. You feel that they are so committed. You are touched by that. Inspiration comes because of that feeling that this person is so committed, he doesn't care much about it, he will just do what he wants, he believes in it, that he lives it. And that is why you are professor. That word is so appropriate. Associate, professor. Professor means profess. And if you are always going to confess and say it's difficult, this is boring, very purpose is defeated. So that's the next one. Don't confess, profess. Wherever possible, put it across with authority, with gusto. Don't extemporize, organize. We often hear teachers say, I have 23 years teaching experience. I can simply walk into class and talk. You may walk into class and talk, but it will be total confusion. It will be irrelevant, trivial information delivered in a sleep-inducing monotone. This is exactly what will happen. Just because the more experience and the more knowledge you have, the more time you have to decide how you will present it. It is more difficult to give the short lecture. Short lecture, 1 hour lecture is a short lecture. Woodrow Wilson, one of the former presidents of the United States, he was asked to give a lecture. He only asked one question. How long do you want me to lecture? If it is for 5 minutes, give me 1 month time to prepare. If it is for 15 minutes, give me 15 days time to prepare. If I have no time limit, I am ready. We teachers are like that. We have so much information, start and then you go on and on and on. You don't know where to stop, when to stop, how to stop. It is more difficult to give that short speech, short lecture. Short lecture is, 1 hour lecture is short in terms of the enormity of the subject content that you have. So be aware, spend your time on how you are going to put across. The what is already there, you have so much information. How will I put it across in such a way that people understand? You present it like a capsule or a tablet or a syrup. And that is organization. We as teachers spend most of our time deciding what to teach. I am telling you, first decide what not to teach. Second, decide how to teach. Then you will get some clarity in what you are going to lecture. You decide, these are things I will not teach. What I am going to teach, how am I going to teach, in such a way that people understand. Imagine you are sitting there and imagine you have concern and care for your students. The other one, which we must always remember is, don't give a monologue. A lecture, as I told you, has got that inherent weakness, that it is a monologue. It is one person who is speaking most of the time, as is happening now. Lecture is like that. Because by nature, a lecture is like that. But if you are conscious, if you are aware, you will make a conscious effort to break the monotony, break the continuity of this monologue. And that is possible in a lecture if you just are aware of it. And I'll just give you an example what it is to break the monotony. When you are presenting a lecture, when you are talking, 15 minutes through a lecture, suddenly say, now my dear students, let us see whether these statements that we are going to read are true or false. You may respond in your own way, you may shout your answers, no problem. Suddenly, they wake up. And then 15 minutes through a lecture, you say, come on, please respond, true or false. First one. If you know it, you can teach it. Is it true or false?
False.
False. Because just because you know it, it doesn't guarantee that you can teach it. We have seen that. The best learner is not necessarily the best teacher. So the first one is false. Second one. Good teachers are born, not made. We often hear this. When he came out of his mother's womb, he was a fantastic teacher. Didn't it happen? It didn't happen. You will do genetic engineering. Genes of a father who is a great teacher, genes of a mother who is another great teacher, product must be a fantastic teacher. It doesn't happen. You don't create teachers through genetic engineering. Good teachers are not born. It's an acquired skill. It comes through influences in some way that have shaped your approach to learning. And that is why this statement is also false. Though we use this word, say good teachers are born in the sense that it looks as if he is born with these. Actually it is not. Nothing is inherent, nothing is inherited in these people. It is acquired. So teaching is an acquired skill. If that is so, that's why we are doing workshops like this. Otherwise we will be doing genetic engineering. This workshop is of no use. The very fact that we are all doing these workshops, University Grants Commission says teachers must undergo training, all this, it's because we know that good teaching is an acquired skill. And you can become better, more effective if you have the willingness and the awareness. Faculty teach content, not the students. Same, I told you this before. We teach the subject, we don't teach our subjects. So I speak no more about it. Next one is very interesting. Silence in the classroom indicates learning. We often hear teachers say, when I take class, there is pin drop silence. Is it something to be proud of? Why are people silent in the class? One, I say the 3 S's for silence in the classroom. First is sleep. People are asleep. Sleep is a cause of silence. That is the harmless one. The other 2 are the terribly harmful ones. The second cause of silence is scare. We terrorize our students. We use teacher power and terrorize. I will show you in the examination. Scare. To discipline the class, we use scare. When you scare them, there will be silence. And the third one is even more vehement. Sarcasm. The third is sarcasm. We are sarcastic because today we can't use physical abuse. We use emotional abuse. We humiliate students. When he is amidst his friends, you humiliate him. Hit them deep down. You feel so bad. You lower their dignity and you think it is something controlling the class and you humiliate. And when we have scare and sarcasm, where is the safe learning environment? You may have a wonderful curriculum. You may have a wonderful approach to teaching or learning methods. You may have wonderful assessment. But if you don't have a safe learning environment, when there is sarcasm, when there is scare, where is the learning going to happen? Sleep, I think, is the most of the 3, the least harmful. Because when he is asleep, I am happy if he is relaxed. At least that is okay. I am happy if he is sleeping, but I am not happy when he is scared and when there is sarcasm. So please remember, this workshop is going to address that issue. What it is to create, we have only introduced you to the concept, but in my definition, a safe learning environment is an environment which I think is absolutely necessary for learning. Otherwise, all these things will have no meaning. If that safe learning environment has to happen, it has to be an environment where there is no scare, where there is no sarcasm. You may wonder, is it possible? We will examine this. Allow us to go through this workshop. And then we will explain to you if it is possible. If you want, you may want to give all that you want, but if you don't have that safe learning environment, simply means the student feels safe. I will not be hurt. The student doesn't want to be hurt. And is it possible to create that safe learning environment? And that is not only in classrooms, working environment, wherever we should create. Only then you give your best, you are comfortable and you are relaxed. Then learning can take place. Every opportunity to learn will be possible if you are relaxed. Relaxation comes when there is a safe learning environment. And that's what we will look at. That's why I said, this silence in the classroom is not something that we must be proud of. We need healthy noise. Having said that, we now review the guidelines. The first one is don't be complete. I mentioned this. Second, don't mention anything more. I am doing that now. Third time I am mentioning, pardon me, please excuse my repetition of this. Third one, don't restate creed. Wherever possible, be novel, be interesting. In your own personal way, present things across. Don't confess, profess simply means be enthusiastic. Whatever you do, do with enthusiasm. And that should be infectious. And that is inspiration. Don't extemporize, organize. Spend your time on how we are going to put things across. Not just the what of it. What is important, I agree. But the what they can get without you. But the how you have put it across so that they remember that they may not get if you are not there. Don't give a monologue whenever possible. Break the monotony. As I mentioned, we will be looking at that in the afternoon closely. 6, we have seen. The 7th, I am telling you now, don't exceed the time. Do what Sunil Gavaskar did. You have seen Sunil Gavaskar today as a TV commentator, cricket commentator. I have seen Sunil Gavaskar in the early 1980s, India's leading opening batsman, the top batsman India had as an opener, test opener. Those days only test match was there. 1987, February, he scored 96 against Pakistan. Next morning we read in the newspaper, Sunil Gavaskar retires from Test cricket. He retired when people asked, why are you retiring? Not, why are you not retiring? In a similar way, when you take a lecture, leave the lecture class when people ask, why are you stopping? Not, why are you not stopping? Then they start shuffling their feet, look at the watch, and the fellow is not stopping, and he says, only 3 more points, another 2 more minutes, I'll just finish. At that time you go. And that is why it is important. Leave when people ask, why? Not, why not? And I'll take you to this quotation which is quite appropriate. When I give a lecture, I accept that people look at their watches. But what I do not tolerate is when they look at it, raise it to their ear to find out if it has stopped. This watch has stopped. This fellow is not stopping. This is the ultimate insult. So, when we take a lecture, please be aware, we must stop when people, have you ever felt at the end of a lecture, oh, this person should have lectured more? Never. We usually had enough. You want to rush out of the lecture, that's all. We never have felt more. Not easy. And that's the challenge of lecturing. Lecture in such a way that at the end of it, they must feel, I want more of this. Not easy. That's why lecture is always condemned. Because it's very difficult. Nobody feels like having more of a lecture. Because, as I said, it is often viewed as a torture. Now, my definition of a lecture will have these ingredients. It will be lively, it will be animated, it will be educated, meaning there is some learning in every lecture. Something, there must be a take-home message. It must be novel, it must be creative, it must provoke you to do something, thought-provoking. It should provoke them to learn something more, find out something more. It should make them think about it, they should not run away from the topic. It should be at a level at which the students are, at least most of the students are. You may not be able to reach everybody, but at least most of them, you make it understand it's at the same wavelength at which the students are. At least you are making an effort to come down to their level. You have shown them the relevance of the lecture. Relevant. They must see why is it that they are listening. And then of course, I am not saying it should be entertainment. I am not saying you should do all drama and circus. It's not that. When you give a lecture, you should be more than a textbook. You must be more than an audio cassette. You must be more than a PowerPoint presentation. It is something coming alive. And that live performance is possible when you create that enjoyment, that love, that laughter, that safe learning environment. So if you ask me, a lecture has these ingredients. And if you have these ingredients, a lecture will become more effective. If all these ingredients are there, your lecture becomes very effective. Having said that, we often hear this word, power corrupts. I am telling you, PowerPoint has absolutely, completely and totally corrupted the practice of lecture in the last 20 years or so. Today the practice of lecture has been absolutely corrupted by the abuse of PowerPoint. And what have we done? We have caused death by PowerPoint. People are fed up. PowerPoint is something which people say, apart from us being sarcastic and we are terrorists, we are also murderers. We have murdered more students through PowerPoint than any other method. You don't have to go anywhere. So I often say a teacher is a terrorist. We are also sarcastic and we are also murderers. We have murdered more students because we have killed their interest in learning. PowerPoint, I have nothing against PowerPoint. I have used PowerPoint today. But what I am trying to tell you is that if we don't have the judicious use of PowerPoint, this is what will happen. We cause death. And there's an article which came, Death by PowerPoint. Don't read this article, but I'm just telling you, somebody wrote an article, Death by PowerPoint, how people become fidgety when continuously PowerPoint is being used. Please remember, the best visual aid is not this LCD projector, it is not the writing board, it is not any of those gadgets, it is the living, loving teacher. Nothing can replace you. Don't take refuge behind any gadget. No gadget can replace you. And that is, if you cannot create that, don't teach. Your ability to teach will be determined by how you, as a person, can have an impact with the students. If you can't touch them, don't ever bother to hide behind any of these gadgets. It doesn't mean anything. The best visual aid is you, the living, loving teacher. That is something I want you to take home. I'm going to conclude with an experiment which I think is very appropriate, an experiment that will explain to you the message of this entire session. And this experiment relates to what I have tried to tell you. I told you that a student comes to a lecture and I am representing the student by this reagent bottle. This reagent bottle, as you have seen this in chemistry, you have seen it in labs. The reagent bottle has got a narrow neck. Narrow neck signifies skepticism, doubt, nothing comes out of lecture, I have to go, so you go, and then, because very difficult, because you go with a lot of doubt and reservation. So here is the reagent bottle representing the student. And then comes the teacher. Teacher is represented by the beaker. Teacher has attended pedagogic and personal effectiveness workshop. So he has come. What has he been told? He has told, don't teach everything. So he realizes that there is so much to be taught. But he says, they have told, no, don't cover everything. Don't be complete. So what you do? Only this much. Because so much more, but don't teach everything. That's, you have been told on the workshop. So you don't teach everything. You only teach this much. And then you go and dump the information. Useless fellow, who gave you admission? Your father wanted you to become a Why are you coming into and wasting our time, wasting your time, everybody's time? Why don't you go and do some business? Why are you coming here? What's the problem? Why nothing went inside? Cap, the lid, yes. The lid is not open. What is meant by lid opener when you give a lecture? Lid opening means creating a safe learning environment. You may want to give so much, but if the mind is not open, if the lid is not open, if they are not ready to receive, if there is no safe learning environment, nothing will go inside. First thing which we fail and we are hesitant to talk about is the creation of a safe. We talk about everything. Workshops will be there on curriculum, learning methods, assessment. There will be nothing on safe learning environment because we don't know what to talk, we don't know how to talk, and we don't know what to do. Because we think safe learning environment means students will become indisciplined. We'll see whether it is. Allow us to go through this workshop and explore this. So what we do, assume that you are able to create a safe learning environment. Then you go and you dump it. Because the value has collapsed. Look at it. The amount of information you have given is finished. You have dumped it, but still, in spite of it, if you see, something has gone inside. In spite of it, something has gone in. But what's the problem here? What's the problem? Too much, too fast. We dump our information at breakneck speed, the fellow simply collapse. If you have a child at home and you want to feed the child one spoon at a time, you will sing, you will dance, you will distract the child will not even know the child is eating. When it is a student, you simply take and dump, the fellow will die and you don't care. If you have that concern and care, if you really love your student, if you want to give something, then with love, with care, with compassion, are you with me? Do you understand me? That whatever little you try to teach, if you ultimately come to that, if you have that concern and care, little by little, with love, it is possible for you to transfer this information. Ultimately, it comes to that. If you can do that, you will not only you have created a safe learning environment with love, with care, and compassion. Now, can you do something else? Can you do something to make this transfer faster, better? Can you facilitate this transfer by using something? You can use a funnel. So this is the teacher, this is the student. The funnel represents PowerPoint or visual aids. I'll use the funnel, and here is the funnel. Now the struggle is even more. That orifice, as it was narrow, now it is even narrower. And it's a struggle, it's an obstacle to learning. When you abuse PowerPoint, it becomes an inverted funnel. When you abuse any visual aid, whatever little was going also will not go, and then you struggle. It will become, and then you say PowerPoint is no use. The problem is not with the PowerPoint, the problem is with the person using it. If you must use visual aids, please use it rightly, optimally, judiciously. Use it in such a way, then the transfer is possible. And that is the essence of using. I am not saying you should always use. If you decide to use, please use it optimally. Don't abuse it. Don't overuse it. And let it not become an obstacle to learning. Very often, this PowerPoint is an obstacle to learning. I have nothing, again, I have used my PowerPoint. But I am saying, you should not make it an obstacle to learning. And shouldn't say, what a waste of time. It is only a slideshow. Slide after slide after slide, lights are off, and then it's all over. Use them judiciously. Use them because they are all wonderful gadgets. Use them optimally. If you see this workshop, we will be using PowerPoint only for a few sessions. Most of the sessions we will hardly be using PowerPoint because we believe it is not. Use it when needed, but you don't have to use it because you have it. And that is the essence. So please remember, the ultimate message is you want to convey what you can, but do so with conviction, with clarity. This is what I wanted to convey. This is what I wanted to say. This is what I wanted to share with you on lecture. I have no answers, but I hope I have probed you with some thoughts. It is possible for us to make the lecture more meaningful. I dare not ask any questions because I know there is a risk that I might start my lecture again. So I will stop. Thank you so much. Shall we have a 5-minute break because we said break the monotony. So you can go to the washroom, you can make a phone call. Let's come back at 12:30 and then we'll have a brief session before we go for.
Before we break,
Yeah. Oh.
can share something.
Yeah. See now briefly. Yeah, Jay, thank you. If you have any. Yeah, please do. Yes.
You share a piece of information which
Yes.
partially or
Yes.
completely you were not aware of or you were aware of. But you used the example of lordosis, which was given to you by a professor, and you somehow used that context to explain us. So that was basically to influence us.
Yes. Yeah.
But you influenced us so much that now we know how to get inspired from you. And that's why you are teaching us how to become a creative teacher. Thank you for this wonderful lecture.
So we come back at 12:30. We just have a big session for or blind. Is it not I the Lord? Now therefore go, and I will be your mouth and teach you what you shall speak. But Moses said, O my Lord, send, I pray, some other person, for without my PowerPoint I will be lost. That's pathetic, said the Lord. Now just pull yourself together. Keep these guidelines or commandments, if you will, in mind. And the Lord presented Moses with the attached handout. That is on the reverse. The guidelines. These are just some thoughts for you, whatever visual aid you use. These are some simple guidelines to keep in mind. The need to speak to your audience before you start showing the slides. Keeping eye contact with the audience. Don't just read the slides, talk about the slide, I mentioned this. Keep the text to the minimum, as I had shown you. Keep a few things and then talk about it. Use a font style that is simple and large enough. Don't use complicated font styles. And don't have too many points on a slide. You must not have more than 2 or 3 points. And so that is, and then of course, a few other things. But basically, the essence of any visual aid use is to make sure that it is an aid. It doesn't replace you. You are the ultimate, that is the teacher. And the day you give a feeling that I am taking refuge in any of these aids, that day you no longer function as an effective lecturer or teacher. This is just for you to be aware. The reference is also given there. those of you interested can look at that website as well. But basically to tell you the principle, any visual aid, whatever you use, this is what. Sudhakar will now take over and conclude before the a very brief concept before we break for lunch.
We are all professional teachers, right? Medicine, dentistry, engineering, design, law, hospitality. Every single course where we teach, we expect my student to function, to live as a professional, right? Most essential. And the dignity, the capacity, the capability to work as a professional is most essential. That means, as a teacher, I must be able to create that professionalism. So what is this professionalism? What they are supposed to learn? I told you, the specific learning objectives which they are supposed to learn. What they are supposed to learn? You take any specialty, any course, any program, any professional. Ultimately, when they graduate, what they are supposed to learn? Can you give a structure? Can you give a concept? Can you make it very clear what they are supposed to learn? So that you see very clearly that clarity is most essential. The clarity is most essential. Every single effort must be made before they leave us, before they depart from us. They have those two things. They must be able to learn those things which are most essential, most important, which will make their life. Without them, they are helpless, they are important. So what they are supposed to learn? Three things. Again, three things which are they are supposed to learn. So what they are supposed to learn? What are the three areas, three domains, where I must put my effort, my energy, my passion, so that they are able to learn? What are the three domains, three areas where they are supposed to learn? Objectives must be created in three areas. And as a teacher, I must be able to write, I must be able to create objective. But objective must be created in all the domains. That is harmony. What are three areas where I am supposed to, are you following me?
Yes.
What are three areas where I am supposed to train my student? What are three areas? This is extremely essential. What are three areas where I am supposed to create objectives? What are three areas where I am supposed to create the content? What are three areas where I am supposed to train my student?
Practical skills.
Wonderful practical skills. They must have practical skills. They must be able to perform. They must be able to use their hands. Alright? Hands are so important. Do you agree with me? Especially your specialty. Hands are so important. Strong, delicate, powerful, perfect hands. Hands means skills. Alright? Skills are very crucial. Ultimately, they must be able to perform. What else? What else is essential? What else is important? What else is required so that my students become so professional? Knowledge and understanding. Very important. Which is this domain? Which is this area? Knowledge is very important, especially clarity, applicability, understanding. Most essential. And they must have that knowledge, right? But what are these areas? A small example, just to make it clear this fact. Of course, you know this fact, but just to make the clarity, let me share you a very simple personal story of mine. This is a beautiful morning like this, a Sunday morning. No work, no office, no workshop. Beautiful morning. Remarkable morning, clear morning. Sky is smiling, trees are smiling, birds are smiling, flowers are smiling, everything is smiling. Only my wife is not smiling. Only my wife is not smiling. So Sunday morning objective is to make my wife smile. Is it possible? Is it really possible to make your wife smile? Is it possible to make your wife smile? One thing is very clear. One thing is very clear. Who must make my wife smile? I must make my wife smile, and you must make your wife smile. Okay. The remarkable task in the morning. I get up in the morning. I look at she is still sleeping by my side. I look at the face. Beautiful. Yeah, not that young now. But heart is full of gratitude. What a remarkable woman. Remarkable woman. 40 years she has taken care of this monkey. remarkable intelligence, remarkable wisdom. She has taken care of me so well. Impossible to take care of me, but she has taken care of me. So then one day, Sunday morning, heart is really full. When I look at her face, oh my God, what a woman. And the way she's sleeping, my God, heart is full. And I want to make her smile. Before she wakes up, I have to make her smile. So how to make my wife smile? Huh? I always make her. What? Something special. What's special हो जाए so that she gets able to smile. What I can do to make her smile? Not easy. Not easy.
Admire her.
Who is good at it? It's very simple, but it is very simple, practical things. By which way I can make her smile. It is very simple actually. It's a simple woman. It's so easy to make her smile. She is very fond of jamuns, gulab jamuns. Not good for her, but anyhow. So Sunday morning task is very simple, to make gulab jamuns with my own hands so that I can make her smile. Before you are my friends, I told you are my friends. मेरे दोस्त हैं. You should help me, okay? Please help me to make jamuns before she wakes up. Please help me. Before she wakes up, make jamuns. यार मदद करो यार, help करो यार. कैसे करूँ, कैसे निभाऊँ, क्या करूँ, बताइए, help कीजिए, क्या करें, कैसे करें, क्या करें? Please, please be very fast, be very quick. Help करो, मदद करो, क्या करें,
Take out the
कैसे?
ingredients. Take out the ingredients.
Wonderful, excellent. From where? How?
Kitchen.
From kitchen. I'm not. Help me in a simple way, easy way. What to do? Please help me.
Why you make direct purchase to the
excellent. You go to the market, Sudhakar, and buy RK ready-made jamun mix. I rush. I buy the RK jamun mix, MTR jamun mix. I rush. And what am I supposed to do next? What am I supposed to do? Be very practical. What am I supposed to do? I bought the...
Mix it.
Before that, how to mix? How much to mix? Where to mix? How to mix? You read the instructions. You better, Sudhakar, you wear the glasses and read the instructions. Not only read the instructions, you must follow the instructions. I read the instructions, I open the bag, and I mix the milk, nicely, smoothly, beautifully, joyfully, what a wonderful thing, what a nice thing. Then what next, please? Help me, please, fast, quick, what am I supposed to do, please? क्या करूँ, आगे क्या करूँ? Please, madam, help कीजिए, क्या करूँ?
Fry.
Before fry, what big balls? What am I supposed to do? You have to make nice, smooth, round, spherical balls, nice balls, beautiful balls, cute balls. Then what? Then you are supposed to fry. Heat the ghee and fry the balls. Nicely fry till they become golden brown. Okay, then what? What next? आगे क्या? You have to be very meticulous, you see. And what next? Prepare the sugar syrup. Allow the balls to soak in there. They will soak. They become very soft, very delicious, very tasty. What next?
Throw the cover in the dustbin.
Oh my God! क्या करें? The last, final stage. How to serve? Oh my God! The way you serve. You wake her up and the way she eats. She eats so well and she goes back to sleep. Wonderful, good for her. Remarkable, you see. Such a beautiful creation. Ultimate task, ultimate capacity is to make a person to smile. Remarkable thing, you see. But if I have to make those jamuns, that beautiful Sunday morning, three things were required. Three things very important. Professionally, to create that beautiful thing, delicious thing, most unique thing, you see. Without those three things, I cannot make. Ingredient is what you guys said, ingredients.
Commitment.
The commitment will come later. First ingredient. The process, the method, the procedure, the knowledge, the information, the fact about making jamun. That means you must have knowledge, clear knowledge about making jamun. Ingredient. Ingredients are all component of the knowledge. That means my student can be any profession, medicine, dentistry, engineering, design, law, you take anything. They must have the right, clear knowledge. Alright? Applicable knowledge, current knowledge, important knowledge, applicable knowledge. Alright? The knowledge is most essential. That means it's all about your head, your mind. Beautiful cells, memory cells, remarkable thing. And that knowledge can be so powerful, and they must have that knowledge, alright? That is the first objective has to be created. You have to very clearly tell objective is the area of knowledge. That's head. Head is very important. Head means all knowledge. And that knowledge is very crucial, very important. And the most basic function of a teacher is to create that knowledge base. They must have the knowledge. And you must tell them, you must show them, you must explain them. And their head must have full of knowledge. And that knowledge is very important. Knowledge. And follow me. Very important. There is nothing but head. Beautiful organ, excellent organ, remarkable organ. So much beautiful organ, you see. So much of knowledge. But is it enough? If I make up, what else is required? What more is required? You have the right skills. Cut, kneading, cutting, frying. You see, all those things what to do with your hands. Am I right? And agree with me, every single profession requires skills. Those skills are very essential. Before they leave me, they must have attained those perfect skills. Their hands are so powerful. Their hands must be so good. Without those hands, they cannot function. It is just not enough they have a lot of knowledge. They must also have the skills, professional skills. To write, to paint, to design, to mark. Every single thing is crucial. Hands. Am I right? So it's knowledge. It's also skills. Means hands. Perfect hands and trained hands. Well trained hands. And you must do the training. When they come to us, they are very raw. Am I right? They can't perform, they can't even draw, they can't even write, they can't do anything. But in your association, in your compassion, you have trained them so well. And when they leave you, they have great hands with which they can perform. Are you following me? Is it enough if they have knowledge, if they have skills? What the third thing, most important, most essential, most basic, most effective?
They should be willing to.
They must be willing to make the damus on Sunday morning. Am I right? Am I right?
Yeah.
That means it's just not enough that I may have all the knowledge. Why damun? I can make jalebi, I can make laddu, I can make so many things. Excellent knowledge, remarkable knowledge, big head, huge head. Skills, I can do anything. You ask me, I can perform. Excellent hands, well-trained hands. But if you just imagine, if I had done now that gratitude, that thanks, that care, that concern, that affection, do you think I'll make damus on the Sunday morning? No way. That is, what is the third thing? Heart. Your heart. It's all about your heart. Heart is most important. But what is this heart means what? Passion.
Passion,
Your
curiosity.
attitude.
Your purity, your transparency, your goodness. Ultimate, most remarkable way, he said a beautiful thing. Thank you so much, sir. The most beautiful way to live in this world is, can you become so transparent? Absolutely nothing to hide, nothing to conceal. Absolutely no gandagi. You are so sweet, you are so pure, you are so innocent, you are so transparent, you are so naked. Every person must be able to read you. Not easy, but the transparency is ultimate. And that transparency is only possible when you have a pure heart. Absolutely no way I will deceive you. No way I will use you. No way I will manipulate you. No way I will deceive you. No way I will betray you. And no way I will hurt you. I follow. This is ultimate way to live in this world. And that is the transparency, you see. It's not easy, but the moment you become transparent, you will see the magic. You become so powerful. Every single person will be simply attracted by your presence. In your presence, they will start flowering. And that requires tremendously beautiful heart, living heart, beating heart. Unfortunately, my heart has stopped beating. In fact, I have no heart. I'm not working. Sometimes I become so hard, so harsh. Pardon me, good people. Sometimes you become so nasty. Am I right? The way you hurt your wife, the way you hurt your son. Pardon me, good people. But don't you hurt people? And whom you hurt? Whom you hurt? Whom you hurt? Every single day we hurt. Whom you hurt? Our people who are very close to us. Of course, later you are good, you repent. You feel terrible, you go mad. You start crying, you start hurting yourself. But it's all over, man. One look is enough. One word is enough. One deed is enough. You can't take it back. Alright? You can't take it back. It's all over. It's all about heart, man. Attitudes. So knowledge is head. Skills are hand. Heart is good. see very clearly this fact. Where we are miserably failed in education is we are giving knowledge, am I right? Please look at your life, please look at the teacher. Where is the emphasis, where is the energy, where is the effort? In which domain? Which domain you give so much of energy? Which area dominates your life? Which area? It is always, very often it is only, I'm not saying knowledge is not important, but unfortunately, the emphasis, the energy goes into, of course, hands, we train them in hands, but what about my heart? In fact, when they come to us, they have so much of heart. When they leave us, they have no heart. Am I clear? They come with so much of passion. But somehow in that process, we destroy the passion, that originality, that creativity, that innocence, the dignity, the transparency. It happens. Most unfortunate, but it happens. It is very essential. When you take care of a child, every single organ is important. They must grow in totality. Head must grow, hand must also grow, heart also must grow. Every single thing must grow. And that is harmony, that is integration, that is synthesis. But unfortunately, the whole education system is concentrated on big head, large head, huge head, especially medicine. I tell you always, what is that we are creating? Have you seen the medical students? When they come out, they only have head. They can't even perform simple tasks. They can't even listen to you. They never look at you. They can't even pass an IV line. They can't even deliver a child. They can't even put some sutures. Absolutely no skills. And their heart, most of you are very hesitant to go to a doctor, right? Impossible. They become so hard. They lost their heart. They are supposed to be so humane, but they lost that humanity. They never understand you. They never look at you. They never respond. Pardon me. And who is responsible? I am responsible. Because I given them only the head. Attitudes are most essential. You see, what is this attitude? Attitude. So you always see that. You always see this. I always see this in my professional course. My student has enough knowledge, enough skills, but they lack that professional attitude. This is the problem. You are miserably failed. Not easy. We'll speak about that. Not easy. Not easy to create that attitude. Most difficult. But somehow we have to make a start, make an attempt. Somewhere you have to begin. If you are able to give them right attitudes, I can tell you, beautiful learning. To do with the right attitude. What are these attitudes? Attitudes means what? Knowledge is okay. We are very good. We are very comfortable in giving knowledge. We are very good in learning and training them in skills. But what are these attitudes?
The way to perceive and
It can be
implement the knowledge. The way to implement the knowledge.
That means you are concerned about me. You want to take care of me. You want to support me. That means you have the ability to understand, to use your knowledge in the right way, meaningful way. Attitude is a very simple thing, the way you look at people. I mean, the way you look at your wife, your son, your father, your mother, your student, the way you look at yourself, the way you look at your situation, the way you look at your life, the ups and downs, the problems and difficulties, the smiles and sorrows. Your whole approach, your whole response to life is your attitude. And you must write, anything is possible, man, here. One day can be good, one day can be so bad. How do you respond? How do you respond? Things may go very well, the way you have planned, but many things may not happen the way you plan, the way you wish, the way you struggle. How do you respond? How do you withstand? I follow. This is the most essential. A skill which all my young men, young students must understand how to live in this world. How to live in this world. Not in easy world, it's aggressive, competitive, violent. Anything is possible. The basic purpose of education is, my son, my daughter, are they able to live in this world? Are they able to live in this world? That is the ultimate intelligence. To understand the ways of the people, to understand the ways of this world, not to fight with people, but live with that kind of peace, that joy, that simplicity, that passion. Anything is okay. But sustain the passion is most difficult for a teacher. But the passion is ultimate. Because once in a while, somehow you lose it. And once you lose it, then life has no charm. Life has no joy. How to live, how to sustain that passion is a real challenge. And I expect, I wish, I hope that my son, my daughter, my children must have that skill to live in this world. Even till the last day, it must become a beautiful celebration. And life is all about celebration. There is no way we should suffer. There is no reason for us to suffer. That's all about you. And the way we suffer is for simple, stupid things we suffer. Has to be taught to them. The real purpose of education is to give that intelligence to understand things, the nature of things, most importantly to understand themselves. I mean, so that they can make a decent, dignified living in on this beautiful earth. They must sing, they must live, they must laugh, they must love, they must smile, they must be peaceful, they must be tranquil. चांद तारों को चुनने की आशा आसमानों में उड़ने की आशा छोटा सा छोटी सी आशा मस्ती भरे मन में उड़ने की आशा चांद तारों को छूने की आशा आसमानों में उड़ने की आशा. My prayer, my wish is very simple. Good people, each one of you are so good. Good people should never suffer. Good people should not have any problem, any misery, any sorrow, any sadness. You must fly. And the way you must fly, in the deep sky, clear sky, without any fear, you must fly. You must fly. And the way you must fly, not a single regret, not a single fear, not a single problem. The way you must live, the way you must smile, the way you must fly. चांद तारों को, you must reach there, you must go there, you must touch there. Simple people, ordinary people. But the way you live, it's all about passion, it's all about joy. The joy has to be created. If the joy has to come, the misery must end. The sorrow must end. And this is intelligence. This is the basic function of education, to end the sorrow. चांद तारों को चुनने की आशा आसमानों में उड़ने की आशा दिल है छोटा सा छोटी सी आशा कांटों से छीन के आंचल तोड़ के बंधन बांधी पायल कांटों से छीन के आंचल तोड़ के बंधन बांधी पायल ओ उड़ा दो दिले चला आज फिर जीने की तमन्ना है आज फिर मरने का इरादा है आज फिर जीने की तमन्ना है. What a way to live. What a perfect way to live, you see. That's the way to live. And only I wish that you have the capacity, you have the intelligence to live the way you want to live. Every single day you must be born, every single day you must die. Remarkable way to live. We'll speak about all those things, but this is all about education. This is real education. Empower me in such a way that whatever may happen, I will live. I'll spring back to life. I'll wake up to life. I will regain my innocence. I will regain my passion. This is most essential. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You stop here. Please have a hearty lunch. And then please come back. We'll start at 2 o'clock. Is it all right? Thank you so much. This is most important. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.